Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee, certified brewhead.
And I am Nathan from NathanDoesBeer.
Yes, you are. And welcome to episode 136 of Brewery NathanDoesBeer podcast, Adjunct series. Nate, we have a special one. Do we always have a special one?
We do.
The specialist.
We do always have a special one.
We sure do. This brewery has been on this is the fourth appearance on the pod, if I'm not mistaken. This gentleman is a friend of mine. He is one of my favorite people in beer, one of my favorite breweries in the province. Any other like superlatives I can lace on him? Solid beard, great hugger.
Oh yeah.
Big fan of lactose.
Like two times on our Ontario top 10 breweries.
Oh yes, and which is both the two times we've done it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, 2023. I think it's going to happen. Let's bring him in. Please, guys, welcome a gentleman I know as Uncle Jeff of Town Brewery in the building. Jeffrey, welcome, sir.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Better now that I'm seeing your face.
Good.
You gorgeous, sun-kissed man.
Yeah, really. A little bit of summer going on, working on some stuff outside lately, feeling like a real worker. So
I love it. Blue collar. It's a blue collar podcast. Goddammit.
I'm a blue collar guy. First time seeing you face to face. Excited to finally converse with you outside of an email.
Yeah, great to finally meet you. This has been long overdue. I'm excited to have the chance to hang with you.
Yes, this is gonna. I feel like it's gonna get wild. I was just saying because we're gonna get ridiculous. We got some fantastic beers and great convo coming up tonight. So let's crack something open now, and we'll get yapping. Jeffrey, where we started, my man?
Well, we sent you guys a bunch of beers. I just got home from work, and I think that the after work beer. The choice of our staff currently is our Quick One Lager. So Quick One is where we're going to need to start. I'm not going to lie to you. I already opened mine. I couldn't wait. I got it in my
It's okay.
Attaboy.
I've been trying really hard to keep it in the glass there. I got about half left. So
Mate, don't even sweat it. Now, this beer is a regular at Town, and it's your 4.2%. Would you say this is like a light American lager type of thing?
More
not
of a
quite.
German lager, really.
German lager. Okay, sick.
Yeah, I mean, German lager yeast, German Pilsner malt. We hop it with American hops, but kind of like Noble-esque American hops.
Okay.
It's really based around just a nice kind of smooth. We wanted it to be an easy drinking lager, but we don't, I really shy away from getting into the I don't know. I don't want to say tasteless, but the
I know what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? The American lager category that can be really kind of like nondescript.
Yep.
So this is like our, like you said, 4.2%. It's a nice beer. It's not super hoppy. It's not super bitter, but it definitely has some hop presence. And it's just a nice easy drinking lager.
I love it. Great name too. I feel like
it is a great name.
Your names, which we'll get through as we go through them tonight, I feel like you've like really got some. I don't know if they were always like this. Maybe that's something we can talk about. I just feel like they're just being the extra like witty and just like funny and super relevant. You think about it for a second.
The Quick One is just like a straight up Port Perry. All my buddies from Port Perry refer to every beer they've ever had as a Quick One.
Yeah, of course.
Because you always got time for a quick one. So we took that, slapped it on this beer.
And we get that in us. I love it. Boys, cheers. Jeffrey, great to see you again.
Cheers.
Mate. Great to see you guys, too. I hope you love it.
Delicious. I love it. It's got the nice... It's like a... It's like I feel like it's got all of the... It's light enough, is really what I'm trying to say, that it's only 4.2, so it's like tons of flavor for the ABV, but it's like... It got way more flavor than it deserves, than it should have for 4.2.
We've been tweaking this beer for like 2 years, just trying to make it like really get it where we want want it to be. We thought it was in a really good spot. And then actually recently, two people, one of them was Mike Lackey from GLB. We did a collab with him like 2 weeks ago, and I gave him one, and he was like, "Oh my God, the hop character on this beer is fantastic." I'm like, "Fuck, man, coming from that dude." I was like, "This guy's a goddamn legend." I'm like, if he likes our loggers, that's kind of sweet. And then, who is the other person? Dave, Lager Dave from Elora.
Nice.
Elora.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, that's really nice." I'm like, "Man, your nickname's Lager Dave. So if you like our lager, then that feels pretty sweet too." So no, we're pretty proud of this beer. We got it in the LCBO now. It's around all the time. It's our biggest selling beer in the tap room.
Really?
I mean, probably staff only. No, it's just like it's a beer that, to be honest with you, when we first said this is the idea of this beer, we got to make this beer, it was more of that kind of like easy drinking, everybody can like it kind of beer. And then as it evolved and you know, we fell deeper and deeper in love with pilsners and good German lagers, we're like, you know what, it shouldn't just be like a forgotten beverage. It should be a well-crafted representation of kind of what we want to do. And I feel like that's where we got it now. So I'm stoked.
That's amazing, man. So
I would say so. It's definitely got got a notable, I feel like it's got a notable German character to it. Like you were saying, it does not feel like an American light lager. It doesn't have kind of like the light watery taste, and not to shit on American lagers. They serve their place as well. I prefer something like this. Something that has. It's even though it's light, it does have a robust malt character to it, which is and it's no less crisp and refreshing as a result. Like, this is really, really nice.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of like malty German lagers. I do love my Pilsner. I also love like nice malty golden lagers from Germany, and anywhere really. But it was kind of like a balance between that, but not make it too sweet. And to be honest with you, it's all Cascade hops. That's all it is.
Wow.
Just a pretty heavy-handed dose. I think brewing a lot more Pilsners too, we've realized just how much hops can go into a fucking Pilsner, and just for flavor purposes only. I mean, to be completely honest, you know, we've been making IPAs and stuff since we opened, but really haven't been focusing on lagers for maybe the last 2 years or so. And the amount that we've learned in that time has been wild. I mean, you can read, but until you're doing it, you got no idea.
Yeah, you got to keep testing. Big Money is the other one I love. I think it's a dry hop.
Big Money's great. Yeah,
that was the Hellas lager we made a few years back, and that again was like that one was based around, and that was our old head brewer Andy, and that one was based around just like a nice malty backbone. Didn't be too hoppy, but it was just one of those nice kind of like easy drinking German inspired lagers, and we get. That was a nice beer, super nice beer. I remember that one. I remember like each batch. Actually, Big Money second batch was like
the
nails. Yeah.
I think I had both of them too. We had a plant, a money tree. We called it Big Money, so it was hilarious. I think that's when I got it. Sorry, Nate, to cut you off.
No, that's all right. So this one, and I might be mixing it up with a different beer, but was this one in short cans at one point?
It was, yeah. We did a short can run. Again, we do these things that we're like not really sure anyone actually wants or cares about, but our staff do. So we're like, well, I'm going on a golf trip, and Travis is going on a fishing trip, and it'd be pretty sweet to have short cans, a quick one when we're doing those things. So maybe we should just do a run of short cans and see how it fares. No one really seemed to care all that much. That's also a debate at the brewery, is like short can versus tall can. It's like a big heated debate for absolutely no reason. And we're like, all right, well, we'll throw some in some short cans and see if anyone cares. And like some people did, but it was just kind of whatever. But it's a beer we're focusing on, and we're getting like good traction in the LCBO and licensee. So probably more formats are likely going to happen, like shorts and talls, but at this point, it's just hard to juggle. So you'll probably see tall cans for the next little while. But my money says that we've got some short can labels in storage that are going to go to use at some point.
I love that. Love to see it. I love short cans, particularly of like lagers. Like I don't know, I've appreciated them. Tall cans, everything has their place, right? Like, but I think I even noticed Muskoka did a short version, the regular tall can, then the extra tall can, not quite the stovepipes.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
a 568 mil or something.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
something like that. And like in the States, they're really big on the like. Last couple times I was there, stovepipes they call them. I think they're like 19 ounces or something.
Yeah.
And even and even for big shit too, like like big barrel aged 1050 in a stovepipe or something like that, like 12% worth.
They did it first, I think. You're so right, and it's so ridiculous that there's a barrel aged 12%, whatever it is, stout in a big ass can like that. It's interesting, all the formats, and we've also talked here a lot about like the 8-ounce mini cans of like anything, north of 10%. So like,
a beer is a beer, so I just count like my beer. The number of cans that go into my recycling bin is hard to spend. My wife,
Yeah.
So I'm like, if they're short cans, there's just I had more beers. If they're tall cans, I had more beers. We were at a show. We went to see Pup at what's it called now? Bud Stage in Toronto last day, and they sell the fucking. It's like a 740 ml can of Bud and Bud Light, and I was like, man, this is awful. But I mean,
imagine how warm that'll be.
I would not be mad at a 640 milliliter quick one can. Like,
not at all. I feel like there's certain beers. There's only Crispies can really work in that. No one wants that much of haze, or it's too much, and. If you did the stout, like Nate, you mentioned the 1050, you'd want to share that. Like the lagers, though, if they're going down that quick,
100%. When I was in the States like a month ago, and do you guys remember the fucking the like can bottles with the twist on lid? Like Miller Lite made them, and Coors Light made them. They're
I know
like
what you're talking about.
But it's shaped like a bottle, and you can screw the lid back.
But it's all aluminium, the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were golfing, and I was drinking Miller Lights in the spin, the resealable can. I was like, "But bro, we need these. We need a quick one in a resealable can." But
that's money.
I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like laws against that here, or is it just practicality?
We had them here. I just don't know if they got popular. Like,
the
breweries made them or whatever.
Could be a fun little... another fun gimmicky... and I say gimmick in like a really positive way because, all three of us are into ridiculous gimmicky shit. You did the sick run of the stubby bottles.
Shit was wild.
Yeah, tell us about that. That's sick.
So, I just love beer bottles, to be honest with you. Like, when I take all my town empties back to the beer store and they offer me my, $20 back, I just always redeem it for some bottles of High Life. And I just love sitting on my driveway drinking beer out of a bottle. It's just I don't know whether it's nostalgia or what it is, but it's just beer bottles are awesome. So I tossed out the idea to our sales and marketing manager, Travis, and Mike, our head brewer. And we're like, let's do a stubby. It'd be so fun and cool. We can do a stubby, and then we'll put a retro looking label on it. And I don't know, it all just kind of pieced together. And we did for that beer, actually, we did more of a malty lager. It definitely had some hop flavor to it, but it wasn't overly bitter or anything. But it's just kind of like a one-off. We bottled it. And the only bottling machine that we have at the brewery now is just an open air gravity filler. So the only thing that you can do to reduce oxygen is to bottle condition it. So we didn't really we said it in our post, but we didn't really talk about it that much. But that was a bottle conditioned lager that was bottle conditioned for 5 weeks after we bottled it. And then we were releasing it for May 2 for as a nostalgia thing. Yeah, there you go. And the labels were white and red. It was I don't know, very Canadian stubby kind of long weekend vibes. And we're all stoked, so stoked. And then 3 days before, we're like, man, are we the only person that cares about this? Maybe no one's going to give a shit that we're putting a lager in a stubby bottle. And then we're like, fuck, Volo puts lagers in stubby bottles all the time. Is this will anyone care about this? And then, so we stressed out for about 3 days, and then we released it, and it's the fastest selling beer we've ever sold. People went
wow.
Yeah.
So does that mean
we priced it well. We did some like marketing behind it, but I mean, people were fired up about the stubby big time. We did a collab with Troy at Badlands, and we released the stubby and the collab IPA on the same day. And I got a text from Troy, and I was like, "Oh, Troy," I was like, "Oh, it's probably about our collab." And he's like, "No, it was like about the stubbies." He's like, "Dude, those stubbies, those look so great."
Does that mean they're going to make a comeback?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I wouldn't push anything out of the realm of possibility at this point. I mean, like I mentioned to you guys before, it's just like it seems to be that people are just grinding harder and harder for kind of the same result these days. It's not as easy. I don't think out there anyways, and all the different collabs and conversations I've had with other breweries and brewery owners and stuff, it's like it's just a lot more work for the same result these days. And people are going out and they're trying different things. You'll see it, stubbies, different formats, different types of beer, there's all kinds of different things that people are doing because it's a little bit more of a grind out there these days, I find.
Yeah, we were talking about that off air. Fuck, we might as well just get into that now. So, do you does it seem like that, like doing really cool, unique things like that, whether it's doing a run of quick ones in the short cans or stubbies or whatever it might be, is like being that like craft beer has arguably hit a saturation of ridiculous or fun ideas. Like you almost can't get people's attention anymore. Like lactose used to piss people off, so you did milkshake IPAs and they got mad and then it got attention. Like I don't even know what you can do to get people's attention now with the product itself, so that kind of leaves packaging. So
yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like it's you could get, I don't know whether that's a well put question. I don't know whether or not you can not like surprise people with the liquid that you put in the cans or the bottles anymore. But I honestly think it's like less and less people give a shit about the like, not the actual liquid. People obviously care about what the liquid is in there, but like there's a lot less like hardcore. I don't want to say beer nerd in a bad way, but like people who are going to line up for beers, people who are like really, really interested in like the finite details of, this beer or that beer or any of that. People are like, we're finding that people are buying a lot more of like the same beers, like square wheels. People are coming in and they're buying 6 square wheels instead of buying like 2 of this IPA and 2 of that IPA and 2 square wheels. I don't know whether it's an economy thing, whether it's like people, everything's expensive right now. You're paying $1.70 for a liter of gas. You're paying $3,000 rent to live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I mean, like people are spending a lot of money these days, and like $5 and $6 beers are difficult to purchase. And like people can do it, but do you like take the chance? Like, do you take a chance on a beer you've never had or flavor profile that you've never experienced or ingredients that are like, super crazy? I mean, some brewers are doing it really, really well. I mean, I think of Blood Brothers probably comes off the top of my head where they're doing all kinds of different stuff and they're definitely getting traction on it and definitely like creating a buzz. But I think that just people are looking outside of just the liquid as a way to create a buzz and into more things. It could be packaging. It could be, this event or that event. But just like different ways to get people's attention, because it's almost like there's less eyes looking on us to see what we do, and you got to go out and find eyes now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
So on the note, I love this. This is interesting. You're saying this part specifically about there's less beer nerds. Is that like a quantitative fact, or are you just sort of like, is that like a feeling you're getting based on taproom?
Yeah, I feel like it's fully anecdotal.
And that's okay.
But I mean, like, I feel like even for me, dude, like I often like, my buddies aren't just like the average person, but they're fairly, I just would say like, average.
As far as what, beer interests?
But I like think about them and I'm like, man, they really cared about beer and what we were doing and the liquid that we were producing and all that. More like the last 5 years, but now it's like a lot of beer nerds. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm 38. And I mean, obviously I'm in it every day, but people who aren't in it every day, kids and mortgages or rent or whatever other financial or social stresses that are on them. I don't know if they're staying in beer, whether they care about it as much, whether they found something that they like, and then it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna buy Square Wheels, and that's easy. You know, I spent my time going out and looking for different beers and that kind of thing. And so I think some people are kind of aging out of it, which is, I think, natural and it's gonna happen. But my fear is getting new people, because I kind of feel like young people don't have that same kind of like connection to craft beer and that drive to get involved in craft beer. And I don't know what we're doing to lose those people, or whether it's just not something that, you know, is that people are getting into anymore. I don't really know. I'm not giving any answers here, but I'm like, you know, these are the things that we are constantly thinking about. And it's like, you know, you have different things to worry about being a business owner, or you have different things to worry about just running a business and gaining new customers and marketing. But it's like, who are you marketing to, I guess. That makes
no, 100%. Nah, brother. No,
Yeah.
you make complete sense. It's interesting. I mean, that's part of the problem, I think, is the shit that we do with Link Up, where, you know, I think we need, you know, 3 white dudes with beards talking about beer needs to get beyond that, or like that's one physical limitation. Like, forget the social side of it. Like, the actual business limitation is that if there's only one group of people typically attracted to it, it's never going to grow beyond a thing. And then there's been some sort of weird stigma around craft beer that it's for pretentious dickheads and blah blah blah. And
that's the worst thing. And
I
that's
hate
like
that.
when we from day one, when we hired, we're like, you know, we're in Whitby, so we're 40 minutes outside of Toronto, and we're like, you know, we want to look and feel like we're a brewery in Toronto, but we don't want to have, and I don't want anyone from Toronto to take this the wrong way, like the Toronto vibe, because you go to places in Toronto and they're awesome, but like they did have this stigma of like this like city, too cool for school. If you don't know what to order, you're an idiot, and you know that's intimidating for people, right? So we wanted to have this like very open, very welcoming kind of like vibe. And the other thing that people often don't talk about in terms of like inclusivity is like how much fucking money our beer costs. Like, it's very hard for people, you know, you're targeting a socioeconomic bracket that is not average, you know, when we're producing a liquid that costs kind of the amount that like we can charge. And I'm not saying like, you know, we're ripping anyone off or anything like that, but I mean, a lot of the products that we're producing are expensive products, right? And it's like, so is there a way to make cheaper beers that cost beers that cost less for us to make them really well? And I mean, we're not going to compete with like, you know, the macro breweries, or we're not going to compete with even a lot of like regional craft breweries, but like, you know, can we put Fidelity in a can for $3.65 plus tax instead of $4.50 plus tax? Or can we put Quick One in a can for $3.35 plus tax rather than, you know, $4 plus tax? And it's like, these are the things where it's like, if we, for a while anyways, it was like, it didn't seem that, not that you could do no wrong, but it's like, you make beer, you sell beer, and the world goes on. And now it's like, not everyone's coming back, and we need to find new customers. I mean, that's literally just like any business in the entire world. You're not going to retain all of your customers. You're going to lose customers, and you're going to have to find new customers. But like, that's the thing in craft beer, I think right now, is like we're all needing to do more to find those new customers. They're not just coming to us. And I think like the initiatives like you did with Link Up, Craig, and a lot of the other kind of like inclusivity things are focused around a lot of obviously different social issues, but you got to think of like there's more to it than that even. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, totally. There was we've like hypothesized in the past before about obviously the last 3 years put a whole, you know, wrench in the works with everything, and all sort of maybe disposable income and spending and such. Then add inflation, then add potential recession and you know, rents and stuff going up, groceries going up, pay not going up in alignment with that. One of the theories, I've said this a million times on here, but I feel like, you know, in the beginning of the pandemic, everyone went nuts. All the breweries like, fuck yeah, that's good. Everyone's spending crazy money and then getting double IPAs. And then now all of a sudden, a year later, they're fat and broke and like, oh, fuck, now I can't be drinking beer.
Man,
so
that's true.
I feel like...
Dude, I mean, we were selling during the pandemic, we almost bought a can. Like, we don't have a canning line. We use Northern Canning. They're fantastic. They come in every week and they take care of business. During the pandemic, we were getting to a point where we're like, every beer we were putting out was in a can. And we're like, we're crazy if we
Yeah.
buy a canning line, for real. But a canning line is not just like you're going out and buying, lunch. You're spending over $100,000. You're spending probably over $200,000 on this piece of machinery, right? And I know that there was breweries that went out there and they spent that money, and then kind of like the market adjusted, and you're not doing as many cans, and now you're kegging stuff, and like we were very, very close to pulling the trigger, and we didn't. Now we're maybe getting to the point where we should start looking at it more seriously again. But it's just like, man, the pandemic was fucked for everybody. I mean, as a brewery owner, I feel very, very lucky because we didn't get hammered the way that restaurants did. We didn't get hammered the way that a lot of other industries did, or professions did, nurses and doctors and all that. But like, we were very, very lucky, but it's still obviously hard to navigate. And it was like, we were feeling the effects of that to this day. And, yeah, it definitely changed the landscape. I just feel like a lot's changed, and we spend, like, myself and Travis and Caitlin and Mike. Caitlin's our taproom manager. Mike's our head brewer. We spend like a good chunk of time just being like, where are we going? Who are we? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Like, how do we continue to exist into the long-term future? Because things are just changing, and that's it. I'm not trying to be like a negative doomsday or anything. And I hopefully not coming across
Not
like
at
that.
all.
I just feel like it's changing a lot, which, to be honest with you, is probably a good thing. The one thing, though, that I think we really need to stay focused on is like, craft beer got cool because it was good and it was different. And we just need to make sure that craft beer stays good, stays better than your normal option, and it stays different than your normal option. Because if it's not better, it's not different, then it's just the same shit, and people won't care.
Facts.
Yeah. And it's also like you were saying, we're kind of in uncharted waters right now. It's like we're kind of like normal life is kind of feeling like it's kind of feeling a little more comfortable right now, but like you're saying, everything has everything has still changed. And as we kind of settle in to I hate to use the horribly tired phrase of new normal, that's like that's come back, but that is kind of what it is now. New normal isn't what it was like in 2021 or 2022, as kind of things are really kind of getting back to what normal life is now. It's kind of like the important questions that you're asking are, where do you find like these new customers? Like, who's the new people coming through the door? That's replacing the ones who have either cut alcohol out of their life for whatever reason, or or have just kind of moved on from craft beer. They're spending money on different things, or they've cut down on it a lot because, like you say, they've started families. There's a lot of that. Like, a lot of that has gone on. Those factors have changed, and kind of here we are, like business owners like yourself, trying to navigate that. And it's like you can't really draw on any economic patterns of the past to find an answer for that. So it's it's got to be tough out there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even that it's. I mean, it's tough. I mean, like, work is tough. Everybody's job is tough, and there's a lot of jobs in the world that are a lot harder than what we do. But it's like, yeah, it's just different, and it's the amount of time that you spend marketing to the same group of people who are coming and buying your beer every week, and that's your bread and butter. But if you're just selling beer to the same people every week, you don't really stand a chance to grow. I mean, that's just like simple.
Yeah.
For us, it's just like, okay, who can we communicate with, and how are we going to get their attention? Because forever it was make wild beers, explain them really well, hammer on the beer nerds, and that's how we're going to expand our footprint or our sales. But now, we're maybe to the point where most people who are really into beer have an idea of who we are. It's like, okay, well, where do you go from here? Right? So we're marketing a subset of people who are like really into beer. and then you're trying to market to people who maybe, you know, their last experience with a craft beer was drinking I don't know, a Mill Street, right? Well, giving them a 2-paragraph description about your beer and the hops that are in it, and you know, the terroir that it was grown in, they're like, I don't even know what any of this shit fucking means, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, how do you get new people interested? And again, I just can't say enough. Like, we have to continue to be different, and we have to continue to be better, because that's where I feel like I love the lager resurgence, and I love a great Pilsner. I love a great lager. But my one fear that I mean, if Travis sees this, he's gonna hate me, because he's heard me say this over and over and over. But it's like, my fear is that we don't make really great lagers I mean, I think we do, but my fear is that we continue to move towards just like making those tasteless American lagers and really just trying to market to everybody. And then you're just making the same thing. It's not better. It's not different. It's just the same thing. So I love the lager resurgence. I love like really well-crafted pilsners, and there's so many in the province, but I just want to, like, I fear that craft breweries, like, because we're all working harder and harder and harder for kind of the same result, it's like, okay, well, how do we find new people? And it's like, my fear is that it's just like, oh, well, we'll start marketing to the Bud Light guy. We'll start marketing to the Coors Light guy. Or not marketing to them, but making the same product in the hopes that marketing to them is easier. And that's when I think it'll be a not a no going back, but like, I think that would be a bad scenario for Ontario craft beer in general, and just craft beer in general, because if you're just selling the same product and you're selling it on your story, and maybe a brewery doesn't have a story, or maybe it hasn't been around long enough to really say much. But yeah, that's just like that's my doomsday fear, is that we just start making macro beer and everyone it's like, oh, well, I could just fucking buy it for half the price and it tastes the same, and I don't really care about you guys or your story, because you've given me no real reason to care. You're just kind of like marketing to me as we used to call it back in the day, a yellow fizzy lager drinker.
Yeah. It's so interesting. The one thing I did see that on all of this back when we did the Future of Craft Beer podcast in January, the one thing I took out of it was that they were saying that Gen Z, which is obviously the 20-year-olds right now, they aren't drinking as much. So I don't know.
They just aren't even. Like, even if you get them as a customer and you lose a 40-year-old beer nerd who decided that after COVID he wasn't going to drink anymore, you're losing a guy who probably drinks 10 beers a week to a person who drinks, 2 beers a week.
Right, exactly right. So then they're not drinking more. So it's like, well, how do craft breweries move forward? And one of the solutions presented from a bunch of articles I read, like on mainstream press, plus also like Good Beer Hunting, like beer websites. I saw, like, I think it was CNBC or MSNBC, whatever, had YouTube videos on it. And they were saying that craft breweries need to become craft beverage companies, which is something that we can segue in after the next beer to what you guys are doing. But that includes seltzers, that includes kombucha, that includes non-alcoholic beer, that includes non-alcoholic seltzers as well, like kind of the Wellington Water or City Seltzer into Dominion, so all these other different revenue streams to tap into people who purchase beverages or anything to drink, whether it's alcohol or not, so that you can diversify those. Like, maybe people will come in to, if town had a non-alcoholic beer, they could bring people in that way, and then be like, oh shit, you do normal stuff too, all right, let's and just bring them in, so there's a brand familiarity and like some sort of, comes back to what you said about the story, like an alignment where they care a little bit because they love this non-alcoholic beer, or they love this seltzer that you're making, this lime fizzy water that's zero, and then they're just like, it's cheap, I can buy it by the case, have something nice to have with dinner instead of if they're cutting down on drinking. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's something to that. I don't know how practical it is for every brewery, because there's a lot of R&D involved in that, and it's interesting. But I think there's something to it, and the solution is not going to be like one size fits all. Like, every brewery is going to have to be like, well, some, like Bellwoods, like Collective, have moved in the direction of non-alcoholic stuff. Wellington have gone in the direction of the hop water, which is a pretty unique product, but also took many years of R&D. We had them on recently, and they were telling us that. So, like, it's interesting. Sort of, there's people have to figure out what that sort of looks like, and then we have to almost capture the new, like maybe the picture of a craft beer drinker or the demo of a craft beer drinker now isn't what it used to be. And the three of us, I would consider all of us in the beer nerd category. I say that with love. We're all beer nerds.
100%. Yeah.
And like we're already sold to though. Yeah, hey.
Percent. So there's not much I care. There's not many things I care more about. But you are hit the nail on the head. I mean, like we talk about that a lot. Is like, well, maybe we're just beverage makers, and maybe we make all kinds of beverages. It's funny because we went out to Calgary. We started selling beer out in Alberta actually last week. So we were in Calgary for a couple of days, and I was looking up different breweries. And we talk about this so much, I immediately noticed. I looked up one of the breweries in Calgary to go to check out their Instagram. And the first thing I noticed was that it said beverage company instead of brewery. And I was like right on their Instagram page, I'm like, that's very intentional. Obviously, not a lot of people would notice it as much as I would, but that's just because I'm like looking for it. I'm like, oh, that's definitely an angle. Then a flip side to that is like, if there's all these different beverage companies, there still has to be breweries, because there will be people who are like, who latch on to that. It's like, well, this is my brewery, and we just continue to make beer. And it's like, I don't see Pilsner or Kel becoming a beverage company. I see them being a brewery, and I'm not comparing anyone to Pilsner or Kel, but just to use them as an example. I mean, they've been around for hundreds of years, and it's like, there's something to being a brewery and focusing on beer and continuing to just push in that direction. Because again, there are beer drinkers. And then there's something to be said about going in and being a beverage company. And again, like Blood Brothers is doing a really great job of that. They've got their seltzers, they've got their beers, they're continuing to do a ton of sours, and they also have their like canned cocktails. And they do it all in a rad way that fits very with the like, none of their products don't seem like it should be from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is really like, at the end of the day, who gives a shit what you're making, as long as it feels like you, as long as it feels like, it's a product that you should be serving, and it's like a legitimate, say, town product, then there's nothing wrong with that. And we struggle. I mean, we talk about that back and forth. We did a non-alcoholic like herbal tea. It was like lemon, orange, rose hips, and hibiscus. And we carbonated that, canned it. It's awesome. I drink like 6 of those a day. But it's like, our priority is beer. And now that we're coming into summer, like we made a batch of that in the spring. Now we're coming into summer. We have no tank space to do these teas. So it's become this like thing that we do every now and then. So that's difficult, right? But yeah, it's just like, I think it just has to be authentically that brewery, authentically you. And if whatever you make, I think like you can find success doing it. But again, it's like you just mentioned, Craig's like, where do we find that? What type of craft beer drinker, or where are they? It's like but that's some of the things we talk about, is like, even not just craft beer drinkers, just beer drinker or just anything, is like, how do you, if you can't get their attention with the liquid, how can you get their attention? And that's like, and that's what we started doing, cocktails in the brewery, and we started bringing in seltzers from Collective and stuff, and we started doing food. It's like, everyone fucking loves food. You turn on Netflix, there's 1,000 food shows and there's 0 beer shows. So like, that's this cool show. Everyone cares about food in the goddamn world, right? I mean, you get that way to people's hearts is with food. So it's like, if they can come in and say, hey, have you heard of this town place? They serve great pizza now. It's like, no, I've never heard of it. I live in Whitby. I've lived here for 5-6 years while they've been open, but I've never been by. I've never had a reason to go by. But now they serve margaritas. I heard they serve pizza. So let's check it out. And then you might not get them the first or the second or the third time that they're there. But if they come back maybe a 4th time, maybe they try a beer, because they're like, you know what, I've been to this place 4 times. I got to try that. I got to see what it's all about. And maybe you win and maybe you don't. But at the end of the day, you just got to keep making good products, so that when you do have your shot, hopefully it strikes with them, right?
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I know we're going to do the next beer, because I feel like we've
just gonna say we're coming up on almost an hour in, and it's because this is just such engrossing conversation.
We can keep it going right after this beer.
Yeah. You guys, what do you want to drink next? Fidelity?
Yeah, why not?
The pills?
Let's do it.
Or do you want to get into something hoppy?
Do we want to break it up like later on and have the pills later?
We can bring the pills in.
You tell me. You tell us, Jeff. You are the master of our destiny this evening.
Pills is got some snap to it, so it's not like it'll get like overshadowed by the other beers. Why don't we try Microdose?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. I actually haven't had this batch of Microdose, so
I'm excited for this one. I love this name too, by the way. This is
I love it.
such a dope name. That was kind of what I was referring to earlier. That I just think that like, you know, you've like really drilled into something with the naming of
well,
these bad
like,
boys.
we need to have a session, and we need a session IPA, and we need to name it Microdose. I mean, obviously, it just makes sense. And then like, man, it'd be cool to have a session IPA in the LCBO in the spring as like a spring seasonal. And they're like, I don't know, if we try and put in Microdose, there's no chance they'll accept it. And they did. So Microdose is in the LCBO. You can microdose at your local LCBO.
Look at that. Taking advantage. Woof. Nice and hazy too, bro. 4.1%. What are the hops in this little sexy gem?
Hops in this: Citra, Strata, Belma. We actually did a batch. We did, the weird thing is like we're having like a hop like changeover because a lot of our hops from last year lasted through kind of into the spring, and so we're getting into some just of last year's crop now. So we made a batch of Microdose in the fall. We made a batch of Microdose in the spring. We made some slight tweaks to the hops.
Okay.
But Strata, Citra, Belma's a cool hop that we've been using a little bit, dabbling with. But yeah, it's a nice beer. It's nice and hazy. It's light.
It sure is.
The body's not like crazy light, but obviously it's a 4% beer, so it's not gonna be nuts. But have a sip. Let me know.
Yes. Cheers, big dog. Nathaniel, I know you're taking
Cheers.
those fire photos. Get that in your face, boys.
Which date code did you guys get?
8th of June.
8th of June?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you got?
No, I'm working on that from the last batch, so we're actually drinking a different batch of beer right now, unfortunately. Okay. It's not that much different, but how does your guys taste?
The body is fantastic. I'm getting a lot of like what I was described as like chalky, which I love. Is like that real kind of dryness, I guess. There's a little touch of greenness in there, which is something else that I'm a big fan of. But like it's light. It's not, that tongue stripping greenness. Which I like it because it allows for longevity of the beer. You have this sitting there for significantly longer than if it didn't have it. Tons of juicy tropical fruit. I feel like it's almost like it kind of almost feels like there's like Sabro or something, like a touch of coconutty type of.
Sabro. But maybe a little bit from the Belma, but
I'll tell you something that I like about it. I generally honestly don't like session IPAs for the most part. It's nothing to do with the ABV. It's more it's more of a body thing, and also that I tend to find that IPAs, when it starts to drop below the 5% range for me, the acidic citrus flavors really start to become a lot more prominent. They get a lot stronger, and when that combines with carbonation that is more upfront, like in a lighter beer, it hits really harsh a lot of the times. Really with most session IPAs that I have. And that is obviously always going to be the case. Like, you're never going to be able to fully balance that out with a beer that's 4.1%. But the body on this is actually quite nice. I can definitely taste some acidic citrus in this, but I'm not finding it as harsh as I often do. With most other session IPAs, it's quite nice, and I'm getting not just citrus but a lot of other tropical fruit, coming through with this as well. Which the fact that those other flavors are still coming through amidst the prominent citrus is a good thing for me.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you get, I mean, we typically will ferment our beers, I would say, on average, a little bit further than most like big hazy IPAs. We lean into hop creep, we really want our beers to fully ferment out before we go to package. So I think a lot of our beers finish a little bit drier than some of the other, like I said, big hazy IPA brewers,
Mm-hmm.
which on a session makes it even more difficult because you're just starting with so much less sugar that it's just going to attenuate further naturally. But yeah, this is actually, we don't use dextrin malt very often, but we did use some dextrin malt in this beer just to hopefully give it a little bit more body. But when it dries out like that and there's less residual sugars, all those fruit flavors, I mean, like if you've got a lot of sugar left and you've got these like nice tropical fruit flavors, they're going to taste like they're overripe, almost rotting fruit flavors. When it's drier, they're going to taste underripe and a little more sharp. And when it's citrus, that's the prominent fruit, and it's a underripe citrus, well then yeah, it's going to taste a little bit kind of harsh, right? But this one doesn't seem to really do that. We also, I was just looking up, if you saw my eyes going, I was like, what did we switch that hop out for on the last one? We added in some mosaic as well.
Mosaic in this one, or in
yeah, batch, which you probably getting maybe a little of that berry tropical kind of. I mean, mosaic is called mosaic because it's just like an undefined amount of different fruit flavors. But I really find that mosaic does that, and we use a metric shit ton of mosaic. I love that hop. It's probably my favorite hop. Although we've seen drastic changes from year to year in the crops, it's never really let us down.
Feel that. So Citra, Belma, Strata,
Mosaic. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just confirming the hops because the Untapped had different hops listed here. Citra, Belma, Strata, Mosaic, right? In this one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Idaho 7.
Sorry?
I'm looking it up right now. Idaho 7. I'm looking at our brew logs.
Idaho 7. Nice. Sorry, Nate. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I was just gonna say, like one thing like that I've learned about mosaic. One thing I always used to associate it with, was kind of like a feel of peach fuzz. Was something that I always used to find with mosaic. That was my own interpretation of it. But one thing that I've learned about mosaic, largely from Troy, with his select. Series with over the last couple of years with mosaic, he talked a lot about how mosaic can create heavy blueberry flavors, which is not not a typical hop flavor that you would typically think of. So that's what that made me think of when you're talking about kind of the unusual flavor, berry forward flavors that mosaic can kind of add in there.
For sure. No, mosaic's great. We dry hop a lot with mosaic. We dry hop a lot with Citra, obviously. We'll whirlpool a lot with mosaic. Idaho 7's a big one for us for on the hot side in the whirlpool. Just get lots of pineapple and citrus, and then Strata's a lot like on the hot side, anyways. You get a lot of that berry, a lot of that like purple kind of flavor, and it's super nice as well.
Hell yeah. Why did, and this is sort of something Nate was touching on before, because I knew Nate isn't a big fan of session IPAs, and typically I would find and like this is, I'm asking this in the sense of like it's almost just like marketing at the end of the day. Like why, like what do you consider the difference, say, between a session IPA and a pale ale? Because I feel like that is essentially replaceable.
I think it's even weirder. I think like a session IPA is a light pale ale, really. I mean, like I just picture a session IPA at 4%. I picture a pale ale at 5%, and I picture an IPA between 6 and 8, and a double IPA.
Yeah,
8, and they're all interchangeable.
Okay,
I'd agree with that.
That's fair.
You could call it a light pale ale for sure. I mean, we made a 4% beer called Coast a couple of years ago and just called it a pale ale. It's really like, at the end of the day, like people have an idea of what it is. I think for this one, we went with session IPA because, again, this is like an LCBO beer that we did. We're like, oh, we'll take our first crack at a seasonal LCBO SKU, and not to down an LCBO beer drinker or say that they're any different than like the people who are going brewery to brewery, the craft beer nerds like we talk about. But find that like when there's so many beers on a wall, to kind of stand out from one or the other beers, really simplifying things makes the most sense. And when you say session IPA, I think like you really get an idea of what that beer is going to taste like. When you say pale ale, it's more generic. I mean, a 4% pale ale could be a lot of different things, whereas a session IPA, I feel like is maybe a little more honed in, although interchangeable at the end of the day. Like, fuck, man, like, you know, IPA, like, what does an IPA even mean anymore?
Yeah.
Like, it's just
so
like
bastardized.
beer.
Yeah.
And especially if IPA is the only is really the only stylistic qualifier. Like if it's just saying India Pale Ale, there's so many things that could mean. Even just American IPA, it like narrows it down a little bit. But like you say, what the fuck does IPA mean?
Yeah, right. It's like hoppy, hazy, hoppy beer, hazy, hoppy, but not bitter beer. It's like you know, it's just IPA. People like IPA. Okay, I like IPAs. People will say that. Right? I like IPAs. Okay, well, what kind? Like whatever. I like them all. But
they probably don't mean that
as a deterrent for people who don't like hoppy beers, because that's a thing. And if it says session IPA, it could say pale ale, and somebody who loves English pale ales could pick it up and drink it and be like, this is fucking disgusting. This isn't a pale ale. I like my English pale ales. But if it says session IPA, you're not getting the guy who, or the girl who loves, you know, English pale ales to pick it up and expect it to taste one way or another. So
yeah.
I think you're just maybe marketing at a specific customer. But yeah, to answer your question in one line, there's no difference.
Gotcha. And thank you. No, that's
As
great.
you might have noticed, I don't have many short-winded answers. So
this is why we're an unlimited time podcast, Jeffrey. We longer the better, mate. I'm here for it. Okay, no, this is a really solid beer, dude. Like I'm personally, I love like whatever around the 5-ish mark pale ales. I find that like that is something I'm attracted to, and I know that like other breweries have told me that like they've noticed what I was mentioning earlier about, you know, people spending too much and putting on too much weight from drinking double IPAs or pandemic. There's breweries that have told me that they have specifically been working on their pale ales and, you know, low end IPAs like 6.5
sure.
to get the bodies bigger, to get the people who were previously drinking double IPAs all the time and give them as close to an experience as they can with these lower ABV beers, because they still want those flavors. But I'm like, the extra calories is hitting them hard. So they're like, you know, there's a huge spot in the market for stuff like this that has this great sort of body and that has those, you know, I'm burping and I'm getting that full beautiful hop wind through my nostrils. It's it's gorgeous.
Definitely like and I often like we're so up our own ass. We just think everybody knows what every beer that we make and what we do and this and that, you know what I mean? But I'm like,
yeah.
Think back and I'm like, well, when I started drinking craft beer, like what were the things that got me into it? And it's not the things that are keeping me into it now. But like, what are the things that got me into it? And I was like, session IPAs. I fucking love session IPAs. It's like I can go out and I can crush a bunch of these. I don't drink a lot of them now. I'm kind of like, I love hazy IPAs still, 6.5%. Square Wheels is my jam. I love that beer. But I find if I'm going for like a 5% beer or 4% beer, I'm generally going to reach for a lager. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of lager on the light end, IPA on the on the higher end, and like that's where I sit. But like if we just did what I like or what I do, we'd be closed already. I mean, like you know, I mean, it's like it's not for me. So like, you know, we talked about that the other day. It's like little tiny things. Like our branding is very minimalist, and you know, it's the name and the art, and that's great. But I'm like, when I first started into craft beer, man, I would take a can, and if it told me the story of that beer, I would read that 20 times over. And it was like one of the most engaging pieces that you could have. And I'm literally holding this can, reading it the entire time I'm drinking the beer. And I'm like, maybe that's something that we should look at. If we're like trying to get people more interested in beer, and people who have never experienced our beer or our brewery before, and they look at it, oh, that looks kind of cool. I don't really know. Session IPA, never heard of it. It's $4 at the LCBO. That's $1 more than any beer I've ever bought. Well, it's like maybe if there's a story that'll get them into it. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will. But it's just like opening up our minds to think of ways to stop marketing to ourselves and start marketing to like the average person.
I like that. One of the things, this is like a good segue, one of the things I noticed that you've done recently, and I still haven't even like talked to you about this even via text, was your like a sub company, I guess, from town, the cider.
Yeah, safe bet.
Talk to us.
Yeah, so I've been making cider in my basement forever. I fucking love cider, to be honest with you. And yeah, it was something that had been talking about doing for a long time. And we just decided to do it. I mean, like, the paperwork's not that much. The difference, I mean, it's like, we have all of the equipment to do it. So it was a pretty easy thing to do. Apply for the license, get the license, start making cider. And so we've made like 3 or 4 batches now. It's all really small batch, like less than 1,000 liters a batch. We're bottling it all, bottle conditioning it all, and it's gone really well. The dry cider was the first release that we did. It went over really, really well. Then we did some funky ones. We did a raspberry mint that was really good. Uh, it wasn't like a toothpastey mint. It was more of just like a fresh mint that kind of like accentuated the raspberry. We kind of quickly noticed that everybody loved that. Everybody loved one of those.
Okay.
And then like, all right, like after that 500 ml bottle, I've kind of had my share of raspberry mint cider, which is cool. It's fine, like it just wasn't like people weren't, lining up to have 100 bottles. The next one we put out was a blackberry ginger. It was like a blackberry Moscow Mule inspired cider, blackberry ginger and lime, which was really, really nice. The ginger again wasn't overpowering; it was just kind of fresh. And then we put out a couple of batches of the dry since, and we got some other kind of funky ones planned. But we're also doing this Pumphouse, which is like this lakefront beer garden that we're doing in Whitby. And so that's going to be it's like a 6,000 square foot outdoor beer garden. It's essentially just a full-time patio. And we'll be doing our cider down there. So we're just kind of like in preparation of this summer and doing that. We're just doing a few batches of just the straight up dry for now. So we can throw that in kegs, keg condition it, and sell it at the pump house. And then we'll likely look in the fall when we have a little bit more space to start like fucking around with some like more interesting kind of stuff. It's super fun and kind of like passion projecty at the same time as like people are really starting to dig it. We're getting licensees that are on it. And it's kind of like taking off and becoming a thing. But again, it's like, it can be difficult. We're very, very space restricted in our current building. So it gets to a point where we're like, we need to prioritize square wheels or quick one over safe bet. So it kind of takes a back seat, but I can't wait for, in the future when we can not worry about, having to pull back on either thing kind of thing.
That's fascinating. Okay, sick, man. So that's what I was going to ask about. I mean, we can get to the pump house thing in a sec because that's definitely a whole other topic that we're going to dive into because I don't know a lot about it. But is there a way to brew the cider elsewhere or anything to give you sort of more to grow the brand faster, or is that becomes contracting and that's probably not really where you're leaning towards?
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's something that we could definitely do, I think, and we could contract it out. We could white label it, just, throw our label on and sell it. I'm not like you can't do that or you're not craft. Like you can't do that or it's not legitimate kind of guy. Like fucking do what you need to do. I've looked at it. I've thought about it. We haven't gone there yet. It's more of like this small thing that we kind of like keep really close to us for now.
Gotcha.
And that will change. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? Again, it's always changing. It's like, how much time do we spend, really trying to get this brand out, or is this maybe something that we kind of hold close and dear, and we've got 2 or 3 licensees in the Durham area, and then we're serving it in the tap room, and 200 or 300 or 500 liters of bottles a month or whatever, right? So it's kind of evolving. We're not pushing it to evolve quicker than it needs to evolve.
Okay.
We're probably maybe in hindsight doing the opposite. But and pulling the strings back, but it's something that like we're really proud of and it's really fun, and we just want to make sure that anytime we're doing it, it's like getting the proper care and time and attention that it deserves. We don't want it to become like an afterthought.
Yeah,
I get that. that makes sense that you are keeping that. There's something to be said about that. Like, I agree with you that it's probably better to keep it like in house and then grow it maybe more organically rather than like, you know, contract it out. At least you can be a little more, you know, whatever, anal about the quality, which is important. You guys have never done the contracting thing anyway, so
No,
kind of wouldn't make sense to do it now. And it's just more like, hopefully, I mean, is there space in the current brewery for more tanks to sort of grow that out, or not really?
not really.
Okay,
No,
so
we're pretty tapped.
okay,
Our
what's
is definitely tapped. Our chiller, you can probably hear it screaming from here. It's yeah, it's tapped out. But I'm not against contract. Like if it's something that, you know, we go to say the Pumphouse this year and people are really, really digging the dry, and we can find a facility that will do it to, you know, our expectations, and maybe we can do one brand in cans or something like that. Again, not against it, but it's really weighing, you know, whether it can push the needle in terms of like growth and gaining new customers and doing all of that kind of stuff is a huge positive. But that release of control is a small negative. So when do those balance out? When does one become more important than the other? And at this point, it's just like, let's just keep this as like a cool thing we do from time to time. We always have the cider available in the tap room on draft. But it's like, okay, let's get comfortable and figure out what this thing really is before we start to grow it one way or another. And that could be that we invest in more space and tanks, or it could be that we invest in contract brewing. But we're just, I think, not really sure the best way forward for it, I guess. Not that, like, you know, we're just letting it kind of like grow up. It's going through its awkward teenage years. We'll pick college, university, or trades, or straight into the workforce soon.
It's rough time. Okay, dude, that's sick. That's cool. I like that a lot, man. It's like, it's cool to have a little, like, I can imagine you guys have been around for, like you said, 6 years this year, right? In October, November. You know, and having like a completely separate side project that's different to anything else that you've done, like, it's got to be like creatively invigorating, and just be like, sick, you know, like for the whole team to be like, hey, this is something it's you know, in the same genre, but it's totally different to all the other stuff we're doing, different branding, different clientele. And that comes back to what we were just talking about before, like, you know, breweries becoming beverage companies. Not that I would say that this is too much outside the wheelhouse of what the same type of establishment would make, but it's going to attract a different clientele. Like cider, you know, obviously there's a huge crossover, but there's going to be people who would discover that and be like, oh, it's made from there, I was going to check it out. Oh shit, they got pizza. Oh fuck, they got all these beers. All right. And that's, you know, it's all of that. And the other thing you mentioned, which I love, is the, you know, you had the cocktails. And one thing I noticed from all of the trip, we were in the States for like 5 weeks. Most of the breweries there had even wine on tap and draft cocktails as well. So it was one of those things where it felt like they made it so, like, you say you meet with a group of friends and they're all your non-beer drinking friends, and I'm the beer guy. I could be like, hey guys, like, look, hear me out. I want to go to town because, look, they got fire pizza, they got cocktails, they got cider. You don't even have to drink beer, and you could bring those friends there, you know, who might not have been sold on the idea, and then they see my beer and they go, why does it look like yellow milk? I'm like, well, why don't you take a sip? You know, and then,
for real, because like, oh, I don't like IPAs. They're like bitter and copper and they're dark, and it's like, no, you don't even know what you're talking about, but that's okay. You can come here, we can educate you.
Exactly.
And it's like, as long as what you're doing, I think, is authentically something that you want to be doing, then you can do it. I mean, you know, if you're doing something for a reason that, you know, isn't wholeheartedly you, then you know, I think, like, as a business, as a following, I think the craft beer world in general is pretty good at sniffing out the people who are in it for the wrong reasons. And
for sure,
I'd say so.
It'll probably happen in the long term, but yeah, it's like, you know, with food, it took us 5 years to really bring in actual food, and it's because we couldn't figure out how to do it in a way that was good. Like, we had shitty snacks forever, and that worked, but we weren't putting a ton of time and effort into it because it wasn't something that we were like really trying to push. They're like, you know what? We need to we need to offer food. We need to stop losing people at dinner time. We need to like bring them in. And if we're going to do that, then we got to figure out a way to do it properly. And we got to figure out a way that we can like be proud of it rather than just say, oh yeah, we got these, like, you know, we got this food or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's a good point. But it sounds like, obviously, 6 years coming up like that, you guys are really figuring stuff out as far as the approach. And, it's been interesting to watch the brand evolve, because I even noticed recently, like, you got the last time we chatted, I think these cans with the sideways label were relatively new from that old one that was like the lamp and and then I've noticed a lot of the merch now. You got some like retro style merch and different logos, like the hat you got on right now, for those who are watching and not listening. Is super dope. Like from the outside looking in, like, and look, exactly the logo that Nate's holding up right there, is super sick. I feel like you've like it to me, and Nate, I'd like to, like, maybe it's interesting you, Jeff, to hear it from someone who's outside the organization, but it feels like you guys are just having a lot of fun with stuff, and throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I feel like none of it seems like disconnected or anything. Like, I feel like it seems very intentional, which I think is key, and authentic to the brand. And it just always feels like, oh man, like this summer we're trying to get out to a lot of places, and I've got to come up and see you because I know you came down here last, so it's my turn. And I just want to go. I want to come and see all that though, because I feel like the last time I was there, it's been a minute. Like, I haven't, it just feels like there's an evolution happening that's like constant, and it just seems like there's so much fun and different things that you guys are trying, that it just feels like, all right, there's always something cool and new that's going on, that it's like, oh, I haven't been to town for a few weeks, I got to get back. There's new beers, there's all this cool new merch, and it's just like, I don't know, it's very cool from outside looking in.
I appreciate that, and it's something that, like, I think you can chalk it up to, like, we get bored pretty easy, and we're like, yeah, you do this is like getting like,
it's not
tired.
A bad thing.
It's something that we had around for 2 months, but no, we're always just like, I piss everybody off at the brewery because I'm like, all right, cool. Like, we made this really great beer. Cool. Well, like, what's next? Like, what are we doing next? Like, how do we make it better? Like, how do we improve? And it's like, sometimes I fail to be like, hey guys, we did a really great job. Thank you. Good work. But what's next? I'm just like, all right, cool. We did that. What's next? It's like, we do have to like celebrate the things that we've done well, but we get bored and we want to evolve, and we want to grow. We've always said that. Like, it's not like we're trying to take over the world here, but we want to grow. We want to see growth. We want to see new customers. We want to see new staff. We want to grow our staff. We want to grow our customer base, like all of those things. And to grow, you need to evolve. You can't just like sit there and cross your fingers and toes and hope that you're just going to grow. You need to give people a reason to give a shit if you want more people to give a shit. So we're like, okay, well, what can we do? And we do try a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, we spend, I would say, countless hours on each of those decisions. And I'm glad that you said, Craig, that it seems intentional, because it all really is. It's Travis is our main kind of sales and marketing, especially marketing kind of mastermind. And it's like, yeah, and we always throw out ideas. What if we did this? And it's like, yeah, we could do that, but should we do that? Or does that seem like something that we would really do? Like, is that our identity? And so we do think of all of these different crazy ideas, and then we really sit down and say, okay, does this fit in with our mission and our vision and all of those kinds of things, right? Like, our main thing, like, it sounds corny to have a mission, but our mission is, or our vision, sorry, is good work and good times. Like, that's just like, it's on our website, it's on our Instagram, and it's like, and good work is encompassing making great beer, providing a great experience, supporting local charities, supporting local groups, and doing those kinds of things. And then good times is like, yeah, like, there's no good work without the good times. Like, you got to have the good times, because that's why one of the other reasons that people are going to come back, so that we can continue to, again, evolve and grow this thing, and hopefully do some cool things with it. So it's like, yeah, we do try a lot of stuff. It makes absolutely no sense to me to work in the beer world and not have fun, because it's like super hard work for not a lot of money. And if it's not fun, then just go fucking work somewhere else. It just like, it literally does not make sense.
Yeah, what's the point then?
There's no point. There's no point to just working beer for the money, because that's like an oxymoron. You have to love it, and if you don't, then it's just a grind. And if you do love it, it's not a grind. It doesn't feel like a grind. So yeah, we always want to try new shit. I mean, like, dude, and like we go out to different artists and stuff now. We're like, oh, we want you to design merch. We saw your shit and it looks awesome. And dude comes back with a seagull walking down the beach with a tall can under his wing, and I'm like, yeah, that's the fucking best shirt ever. Like, yes, we have to.
I love it.
But yeah, it's just, I appreciate that. That's like a really, really nice thing to hear, because we do feel like it's an evolution. We feel like our beer has evolved. We feel like our brand has evolved. We feel like everything that we kind of are about and do, our service, our experience, our food program, everything is evolving. And it's like, our job every day to wake up and think about how we can continue to do that. And that's what makes it exciting. So yeah,
Hell yeah,
I appreciate
man.
And it's one of those things that I feel like, as long as you've got a mind of continuing to evolve, you're at least giving yourself a chance to do what we were talking about before, which is finding those new customers. And as you're going through this, that's obvious. You're not going to stumble upon a silver bullet that way, because I don't think that exists. But you're at least giving yourself the chance to bring someone else in the door, even if it's something as small as the example as what Craig said before of like if you're bringing some friends along, and you're trying to convince them where you should go out for the night. Like if you can sell one of them on pizza, if you can sell another of them on cider, if you can sell another of them on cocktails, if you can sell your whole group of 4, and then you've got them all at town, and maybe there's something that'll have them come back.
100%. And then they see an event that we're doing to support this local organization, or they see that there's a drag show on Saturday, or they see that there's trivia on Tuesday, or whatever, right? It's like, oh fuck, I could get behind that. That's it. That seems kind of cool. And then that's, we always talk about the experience, and all of the things that we do are all about the experience. It's at the end of the day, it's literally people's experience is the only thing that matters, and that's the only thing that's going to bring them back. So that they feel like they're a part of the brewery, that they feel like they're a part of town, even for a minute, then you've got a chance to bring them back, which is sweet. So
I fucking love it. I don't want to like. Let's keep cracking. I just don't want to we have a bunch we want to get through tonight, and I know we're obviously loving the convo.
Yeah.
Where do we want to go from here, my dude?
What do you think?
So, well, we've got a few options. We've got a couple different IPAs we were trying to do. We got another crispy. Do we want to do another IPA, then sort of break it up with the crispy, and then go into another couple different ones?
Yeah, let's. Do you want to have Square Wheels?
I was thinking.
Yeah, let's do that.
A hot
Let's
minute.
do that.
Yeah.
This was the first ever beer.
Square Wheels is. This is the best batch of Square Wheels we've ever made.
Oh fuck! I am
Really? There we go.
Already
Insane.
Moist. I distinctly remember coming in for the first podcast we did on January 2nd, 2018, and when we walked in the brewery, and I was like very excited to try this beer. It's been very cool to watch the evolution of this beer over time. I feel like it's changed a lot, and I think that is the best thing about craft beer, is that the brand is strong, and brands do not have to stay the same over time by any means. And I think it's fucking awesome that you've been able to do that with this.
This beer has been the same. This beer has been like fairly the same for probably the last 2 years. But again, changeover in crop years of hops. You get hops coming in, and 15 kilos of Mosaic doesn't taste like, this year doesn't taste like 15 kilos of Mosaic from last year. So we made some different tweaks, not big changes, but tweaks, weights mostly of the different hops, and subbing 5 kgs for 5 of this one for 5 kgs of that one. But I feel like this beer is just in a really, really good spot. it's like continuously finishing at the same gravity, which is good. So there's consistency from that end. And no, I'm just really, really happy with this beer.
Okay,
I
amazing.
keep on this beer because we put out a new IPA every 2 to 3 weeks. And so that's the one that I'll take home. So I'll sleep on Square Wheels. And then all of a sudden I'm like, man, I haven't had Square Wheels in like 2 months. I'll bring home a 6-pack. And then I have it and I fall back in love with it.
I love that, dude. It's cool to see. Like that was the other question I meant to ask earlier. How many year round beers would you say you have now? So it seems like it's Square Wheels and Quick One primarily. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the thing is that actually Outside Jokes, which I don't think we have on the docket, which is our like 5% pale ale.
I do have it here, but yeah.
Yeah, we do have that.
Citra, Zaka, Idaho 7. That beer is our highest selling LCBO beer, which is weird. So we sell more Outside Jokes in LCBO than Square Wheels, but as a brand, we sell twice as much Square Wheels as we do Outside Jokes when you take into consideration licensees, the brewery, all that stuff. We sell more Square Wheels to licensees across Ontario than any other beer, for sure, like by a lot.
Look at that.
But those are kind of the three Quick One, Square Wheels and Outside Jokes, and then Microdose is like our seasonal right now.
The new one. Gentlemen, get it in you.
Cheers, fellas.
Oh yeah. The other thing is spectacular. I feel like it's never been this hazy before, which I love.
It's been a good spot.
The other is it still got Idaho 7?
Idaho 7 in the Whirlpool.
Yep.
And then we have Citra Idaho 7 Mosaic on the dry hop.
Yeah, this is stunning. This is by far the beer I've had the most. I was like looking at my check-ins. This was check-in number 14, I think, for this beer. Which for someone like me, I don't really have the same beer many times, just by nature of what we do.
I just love the beer, and it's $4.25 at the LCBO, like $4.25 tax in, and that's not a sales pitch, but I'm like, fuck, dude, we sell this beer for $3.76 plus tax at that brewery, and I'm like,
probably should put that up.
I just think it's tough to find a beer, and that's not like being like, I'm just like that for that price. I just find that like that beer is just it's delightful.
Oh, it truly is. Like I feel like it's severely underpriced.
Yeah.
Like the body is crazy, which is always something that I feel like there was like a point where you guys just like all of a sudden just went nuts and your body of all the beers just went bonkers. Yeah, this shit is like, this is killer, and I feel like it's such an interesting hop blend as well. It's super juicy and tropical. It's got a touch in the Idaho 7, delivers maybe a little bit of grassy herbal kind of vibes in the back end there, a little earthiness.
A little bit of there, which has always been like Square Wheels MO. That like dank weed kind of in the back end. I didn't want to get away from that. We debated taking the Idaho 7 out of the dry hop completely and just going Whirlpool, so you just get the like pineapple tropical fruit. But like the identity of Square Wheels is that like pineapple citrus bomb, but to have that like still kind of like dank greenness in the back. I don't know how old this one is that I'm drinking. What do you guys have for a date code on yours?
8th of June as well.
8th of June, yeah. So that's a 2-week-old beer.
Yeah,
that's quite fresh. I love it.
Super fresh.
I find like 2 weeks is probably the best possible time to be drinking hazies.
Yeah, I guess it depends, but 2 weeks is a pretty safe zone. I think it all depends.
Safe zone, because if you rush it out, which I mean, brewers are lying if they're saying they've never had to rush out a hazy. But if you got to rush it out, you need a time for that greenness to go away. But I don't find like I don't know. How do you guys feel? Like, are you like if you saw a 6-week-old hazy, would you like turn your nose up at it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me,
Nate's not as bad
I'm a
as
little
me.
more. I'm a little more lenient than Craig is on this, and this is something that
we talk about
often,
it a lot. Yeah.
This is something that we often joke about with each other. It depends on the brewery. If I see a 6-week-old one, I will not turn my nose up at it. It will not. depending on the brewery, I might not bother to buy it if it's a brewery that I know and trust, and and I think that their stuff holds up pretty well. I will still buy a 6 week old one if it's one that I really want to try. If it's one
Yeah.
that I don't know as well, if it's like a brewery that I'm coming to for the first time, I will probably stick to something that is 4 weeks or less. Um,
Yeah.
like in, I know Craig is is probably like anything I know he's like anything beyond 2 weeks. No, thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking about it when I was in Florida. I went to this brewery called Three Sons in Dania Beach, which was like quite a big deal. And they have just like a line of cans on the bar to choose from, and I was just choosing. Idiot me! I was by myself. Tiff didn't come up with me, and I picked the two ones that I wanted because in the States it's not as consistent here. I feel like in Canada it's really like 6.5 or 6 is like a real common thing for a single and the doubles. Like their doubles are like 8.5 or like they're coming into triple territory.
Yeah.
And I find that really annoying. So I was just trying to pick the two beers that were in the ABV range. And then when I got home and I checked it and they were both a month old when I bought it, I was like, you fucking idiot. And I've still got them left, and it's June. They're 3-month-old beers, and I've got all of this stuff from the States still that I haven't drank yet, and I'm stressed about it because we're having a lot of podcasts, and I've got only 1 or 2 at most drinking nights a week to get through that stuff. And it's like it's getting older and older and older. It's just more of a preference, and I also there's like the preference thing because as soon as IPAs get a little old, they get that kind of sticky maltiness for the most part. And I just feel like they're like, for lack of a better term, like a shadow of what they were intended to be. I also feel like if I'm reviewing a beer for the first time, I don't think it's fair to the brewery that the drinker, and I'm reviewing it and whatever, not about me, but just in general. Like, what if I go and this is my first touch point with the brewery, and then I'm reviewing the beer and it's already a month old. I'm like, oh, this is not this is not a beer that's meant for 6 weeks. Like Troy
We
told
refuse to do growlers off the hop because we're like, man, we're too new. No one knows us. If they have a 2-week-old growler that looks like an amber lager and it's actually supposed to be a hazy IPA, that's the other thing. Like,
then it's not good.
thing too, right? Like you can have a 2-week-old hazy IPA that's full of fucking oxygen and it'll be garbage.
Yes.
And you can, like, I actually found, so like I think you met him, see my father-in-law Rav, so he worked at the brewery, and
Tiff says hi, Jeff. She just waved to you.
Hi, Tiff.
She can't hear you, but he says hi. She's trying to get the dog.
My father-in-law worked at the brewery, like helped out and stuff, and he would take home beers, but he's not really like a huge beer drinker. He'd rather smoke a joint than drink beer. But he like takes them home and he puts them in his garage, and then he has them there for his friends. His friends never want them. He's like, so I go to his house and I call it like the tickle trunk. So I'll go out to the garage and I'll open up his fridge and I'll move all of the like soda water cans that he's got, and I'll reach into the back of the fridge and find like a year-old IPA from town. I'm like, I just want to know what it looks like, right? Because
Yeah.
Two things that can go wrong. You can have haze for the wrong reason that just drops out. And it's just like, oh, there was just too much yeast in the beer. It's not that you actually created haze through like an actual dry hop or anything like that. It's like, it's just like too much yeast in the beer. And then there's the other effect that it's just like, it just gets oxidized and like, it just tastes like cardboard and becomes malty, and especially if it's stored warm. That's the other thing is like distinct difference there is like you have that, we describe it as like that distinct LCBO IPA taste, where like, hazy IPA that was probably very well crafted, probably doesn't have a lot of oxygen in it, but it sits on a warm shelf for 4 weeks, and then just they don't really taste like horrible. They do taste horrible compared to what they should taste like, but it's not like an unbearable taste, but it's very nondescript. It's just kind of like,
flat,
hoppy, kind
two-dimensional.
But I opened, actually, it was a beer we made forever ago called Couch Full of Dads when Andy was.
I remember that beer was phenomenal.
I opened it like 14 months after it was canned.
How was it?
It wasn't good, but it was fine. It wasn't brown.
All right.
Like it still looked like the same hue, the same color as a hazy. some of the haze had dropped out. I mean, after 14 months sitting in a cold fridge, it's bound to happen. But it wasn't as bad as it could be. But then we've had Square Wheels batches where the canning line got fucked or something happened and the purge wasn't working right, or there was too much oxygen in the bright tank, and we had cans that were brown within 4 weeks. So it's like
it can go either way.
There's so many factors.
I've got a large problem with triple IPAs. I don't really like the higher octane stuff, and I just let them sit. And I've had these ones in the fridge forever. And I was talking to Troy about it. I got 5 different beers. I got triple IPA, the Blood Brothers Third Moon collab from Third Moon's 2022 anniversary in May last year.
West Coast?
No, it was a triple haze, not the West Coast one. And I've got like Bellwood's Witch Shark, the birthday one from last year, from their 10-year anniversary. I've got 5 beers. I got a Sir John. I got some other stuff. So I was like, Troy was like, just get them all, pour them all into it. Just try one at a time. And like, because I haven't had them, I got them in the fridge upstairs. I've just been meaning to do it. I just like, I don't want to drink triple IPAs, but I'm like, I might do it like tomorrow or something where I've just got to try them and review them probably, but it's not fair because they're not where they were intended to be. But I'm curious because triples last so I've had triples at 4 to 6 months, and it's like, I'm from what I could tell, because there's just so much going on, and I think sometimes they're so green that they happen to kind of like last. So I'm actually, you've given me more confidence being that you opened that beer.
I've had our beers that are like 8 months old, a year old. 14 months was the longest one, but I've had year-old beers where I'm like, not
that bad.
Probably not. Am I going to drain pour it? No. But I've also had one I'm like, this is the gnarliest shit I've ever tasted in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
On the triples, it really depends on the triples, because like
That's
you were
fair.
saying, because some of them can be like, if they've got like a really heavy dry hop, and if it's done really well, some of that hop flavor like really has some staying power. Like really depends on the hops too. However, like sometimes when like for some of those ones where the hop flavor does drop off, it tastes like you're drinking straight vodka. It's so boozy.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a little concerned about it, but I guess I got to look at it like a fun experiment.
There's so many things that can go wrong, and there's so many things that might not go wrong. It's just like, I was just curious. That's why I asked.
No, it's always interesting, and I feel like it's just such a fun topic to talk about, because I like Nate said as well. Like, I feel like it really varies from brewery to brewery, and I think the key differentiator is that hop burn, that greenness. Like the Sawdust City, the Get It In Ya we did in 2018. There was a first time putting that much hops in a beer. That like that shit almost tasted better at 6 months than it did fresh, because it was so intense. Like it was like garlic. It was fucking crazy.
Like it needed to go away.
It needed to just sit and chill. And then it was like, it was just so funny. It didn't matter how often I drank it. I'm like, oh, it's tasting better than it did last month. And like, it's like, and it shouldn't, obviously they've dialed it in to an impeccable level since then. That was a long time ago. But, yeah, it's really funny, and it's like, I would just prefer, normally Nate and I have a little arrangement with either we ship stuff to each other or his parents, because they live close to me, so they would I drop them stuff, they take them to him, he gives it back, and then I go pick it up. So depending on what it is, if he's getting me stuff, I'm like, all right, it's got to be within a week date. Like if he's in Quebec,
if it doesn't get in another week, then I'm not drinking it.
That's basically it, because I've had stuff before, and all of a sudden, by the time it gets to me, it's a month old. I'm like, I just feel like it's just not the same, and that's I don't know. I want to get the picture, because sometimes as breweries I either don't get very often, or some of them were the first time I've been introduced to some breweries. So I'm like, I want to just really make it like a fair thing, that I'm like, all right, this is like, I understand what they're about, that. And I imagine for you that would probably be important, that if someone's drinking a shelf-aged fucking 3 months old Square Wheels that doesn't, this is fresh as shit, this is 2 weeks old, this is gorgeous, this is bright and aromatic and flavorful, like this is the experience that the town drinker should have. But you obviously,
that's what we want people who are coming in for pizza for the first time to try that and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, I like that. But it's brewery to brewery too, like you were talking about, Nate. Like for instance, Bellwood's, like I'll drink, like, so one thing, like we don't have a centrifuge, like we don't really do filtering. We have like a bag filter that will make sure that no hops get over to the bright tank, but that's about it. I know that Bellwoods has a centrifuge, so they centrifuge all their stuff. There's like no hops getting over. There's no yeast getting over. Like that haze is haze that was created from, you know, the fermentation process, the dry hop process, all that kind of stuff. But even our cans, like we do our best to strip out everything out of the beer and just have like what is intended go into the bright tank and into the can. But it's inevitable in our cans. Like you're going to get some of that dropout. You're going to get that little yeast in the bottom of the can. That's why I always pour my beer out of the can into a glass. Like I never, ever, ever will drink out of the can, because that last sip, regardless, you're like every time you're taking a sip, you're mixing up the bottom, and then the bottom is just like kind of gnarly. But you go and you get a Bellwoods can, like you just won't get that. They just don't have that yeast because they can separate that. They have the processes to do that. So like if I saw an 8-week-old Bellwoods beer that's been refrigerated for those 8 weeks, I wouldn't blink an eye. But gotcha. I mean, I know that there's some breweries that, you know, we use a bag filter to make sure that hop particles don't get through, and that's really what we're worried about. But I mean, I've opened beers before and poured them into a glass, and you can literally see, not full hop pellets obviously, but little hop particles kind of like rolling around the glass, and you're like, oh, whatever, it's not that big of a deal, I don't really care. But if that sits in that can, say on a warm shelf for 8 weeks, it's going to start to change the flavor of the beer, and that's going to start to get better. The yeast is good, and it's like, you know, so that's the other thing, is not all craft breweries are built the same, and it really is kind of like, it's almost like a badge of honor to be like, you can make an 8-week hazy, like you can make a 12-week hazy, and it still tastes good, or it still tastes like it should, kind of thing. And yeah, it's just interesting for sure.
Yeah.
But
with the LCBO for you guys then, because obviously when anything's in the brewery, and if you're shipping to an indie bottle shop or a licensee, you've got full control over that. Do you like have, I remember like years ago when we were doing the in-person one, we had Left Field on, and that was the first time they told us that they did the thing where they like have this little beer? Pardon?
They'll like pull beer from an LCBO if it's sitting on the shelf warm?
Yes, they actually had like some sort of agreement with them that they can only be kept in the fridges, and it has to be kept cold the entire time. And then if they order more than their usual shipment, they're like, what are you ordering more for? What's going on? Are you selling more? Like they won't even sell them more because they don't want the product to be compromised. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, but that also seems like a whole ordeal. How do you mitigate that?
Yeah, I mean, we try and pay attention to as much as that as we possibly can, and make sure that the beer is always cold. I mean, it's really difficult, like being, you know, full transparency. I mean, yeah, like you can be in the cold room and on the shelf, but like if you're ripping through beer and you're going to go through more than 2 cases in a week at say an LCBO, well, they only have room for the 2 cases on the shelf, and the rest is in the warehouse in the back, which is just room temperature, right? So it is very difficult. The good thing is that back when you were talking to Left Field was probably 3 or 4 years ago.
2018, I would say, yep. So about that.
5 years ago. So even since then, the LCBO has started selling and started giving way more space to beer. And that was like back when I was working for Mill Street. It was like, you know, you'd go into LCBOs, like more than half my LCBOs was like the refrigerated section was like a reach-in fridge, not like a cold room, right? So now you're seeing those reach-in fridge sections being converted into cold rooms. Those shelves that were in the middle of the beer section, not in the fridge, are now the middle shelf of the cold box. And so they know that it's just people want cold beer. I mean, when I worked at Mill Street, they didn't give a shit whether the beer was in the fridge or whether the beer was on the shelf for the beer. They cared because people buy cold beer. People don't buy warm beer. It's like when I'm buying a 6-pack, I want a 6-pack of cold organic. I don't want a 6-pack of warm organic. It's just like, it just makes sense. Maybe I'm buying it to go drink it on right then. Maybe I'm not. People just want cold beer. But the LCBO knew that. And as beer got more and more popular, especially Ontario craft beer, you see more and more of those like walk-in beer coolers. And it's like kind of less of a thing. It's still a very real thing in a lot of the old stores like downtown Toronto and that. But I mean, I can't think of, say, a Durham store that doesn't have a walk-in cooler now. So you're generally going to be cold all the time. So it's less of a task, but it's still a very real thing because again, it just starts to taste like shit. Not like shit. Again, it's really not like
It's not
shit. It's
optimal.
just not like it should.
Yeah, a lot of basically everyone in Hamilton has a cold room too, and I always check it out. But to be honest, probably like 3% of the time I'll buy something, but I'm always just going to just have a little squiz. I'm like, what's going on? Who's the home? Like, oh, they got outside jokes. They got mad nice. Fuck yeah, this people know what they're talking about because I don't. Some stores have a great beer buyer and some don't. So I always like to. I'm more just going in to judge and be like, what do you got? How fresh is it? I pick it up. I'm like, August and it's fucking May. Like, you know, I feel like collective arts get fucked a lot. I feel like they always fuck over collective arts with old ass beer. But I'm like, it's always, I have definitely noticed that the one near, there's one at Fairview Mall in Toronto that doesn't have one. And I remember one time going in there and just seeing there was like a whole, those shelves that you were talking about that end up being converted to the cold room was just all New England IPAs. I'm just like, ugh, all of these are dead.
I feel like that's the case of almost anyone who has a bunch of SKUs now, and I mean, Collective Arts probably have the most of any brewery in Ontario. But if you look even if you look at any like Nickelbrook, if you're like, you know, you'll definitely see in in most stores cans of Wicked Awesome that are like 4 or 5 months old or more.
Yeah, some of them I've seen like 8 months. It's crazy.
As dry hopped, which helps a lot. They're not as saturated, so like, I mean, that's like one of the biggest things is just like vegetal matter, hops in beer is going to just lead to its deterioration quicker. It's just like inevitable.
Yeah, this is what it is.
The less dry hopped, kind of the better it'll last. The less saturated hops, the longer it'll last. The more centrifuged or filtered it is, the better it'll last. So like, there's different things that can do it, but it's definitely like you got to set your own boundaries. See, so that's good. But every brewery is kind of different. It's funny.
Well, you know what I like to do, and I set my own boundary. Like, I mean, I know we're joking, and I do. I just know what I like, right? And that's why Nate and I always joke about this. But what I also, I mean, we're in a fortunate position where we happen to know the people who own or make the beer in a lot of places that I love. So, like, Troy from Badlands has told me his shit is best before 4 weeks. That's what he thinks.
Before 4 weeks?
Before 4 weeks. That's what he's told me explicitly. I imagine most of his stuff moves pretty quickly and gets consumed within that time, so it's probably fine. I always make sure I do that. So if you tell me that this Square Wheels is good to 8 weeks, and I will trust you and I will drink it within that time.
I wouldn't say it's the best though. I would say the same thing. It's the best in 4 weeks.
Okay, so that's perfect. But some breweries might have a different thing, and I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah,
I think it's just safer.
I don't think anyone can honestly say that a hazy IPA
is better at 8 or
better after 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like good best practice.
It'd be like, do we just need to keep it on the LCBO shelf? That's why they might say that. But like, I just saying like, yeah, like you can last a little longer, but yeah, 4 weeks is. I find that it needs 2 weeks to kind of peak and mellow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you mentioned that earlier, and I've heard that before. I don't know how I feel about that. I guess I'd have to. I'd have to try
this
it.
Fucking guy.
I know. Okay.
This is it. We all got different opinions, and we're all getting along drinking beer together. It's great,
right? Hey, man, I just want to drink the beer at the freshest possible. Like, you know, I take the shit off the canning line.
Well, no, you should also say, like, you know what? If you put it in a can, it should be ready to consume. So it should be its best on that fucking day.
I mean, arguably, yeah. Like, you know, I do understand, though. Haze is a very, like, interesting beast. So, you know, and it's nuanced. And there's also, everyone has their individual profile. So, you know, it is what it is. I just kind of like it fresh. And, you know, we're drinking fresh Square Wheels. It's fucking phenomenal. Nate, you're trying.
We are indeed. It's fucking delicious. On that note, though, time is continuing to tick on, and you know, we want to make sure we got time to get through the rest of these, so we should crack open the next one.
Did we want to break it up with the crisp, or did we want to?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do Fidelity.
Oh yeah. So this glorious little gem. When was this one? This was the last time I saw you. Then this would have been.
This was, I don't know, last fall?
Last fall. Because I remember it wasn't freezing. but
It
it
was
was a
last
little.
fall because we released this beer. Was one of the 3 beers that we released for our 5-year anniversary.
Okay.
So we released Fidelity as a Pils. We released Crash Course, which was an IPA, and I forget the third one. I think it was a sour, like a wild sour.
Okay.
We did a bunch of wild sours in a span, and I forget which one specifically we did. I think it was White Lights, but anyways, Fidelity was a Pilsner, German Pils. Um, this was like, we had been really focusing on making lagers for like I don't know, 2 years, and this felt like kind of a culmination.
Hell yeah.
It was when we realized that you can really, really saturate a lager with a nice amount of hops. It doesn't need to be overly bitter, but it was like there was a few moments that really, like, I don't know. I mean, I love beer. I've been drinking lagers for a long time, but there was 2 moments last year that kind of changed it for me. And one of them was me and my wife actually were doing a little tour kind of like northwest of here. And we were driving home and we saw the sign for Sonnet Hill. And
Oh yeah.
like Sonnet Hill 1 kilometer. And I'm like, it was like 8 at night. I'm like, babe, we have to stop. I know you don't want to stop, but we're 1 kilometer away. I had no idea where this place actually was. I know that it's in Caledon. I don't know where that is on earth, but we're driving by it. We need to stop. So we stopped and we sat down, had a beer. Actually, a girl that used to work for Northern Canning who did some art for us. She was working there at the time, Hannah. And so she served us our 2 beers and we sat down and we each had a sip. I got a Ziegler, which was like a German Pils, and my wife.
That's a great one.
Yeah, my wife got the lager beer, and she took a sip of the lager, and she looked at me and went, "What is that?"
In a good way, or
in a great way. And the only thing I could say is that is craftsmanship. I'm like, that is just like a really, really well-made lager, and it was delicious. It was just like so many different depths of flavor. It was just so well-rounded. It was just like super, super, super tasty. And then the other one was at Godspeed when they did the collab with Checkpoint,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
And we went there for the release of that beer, the first one that they did, and I was just like blown away. I was just like, it wasn't bitter. It was just so flavorful, and it just was so hoppy and so herbal and so floral and so beautifully well done. And we just sat there drinking out of those grenade glasses, and I was like, man, this is like just a beautiful, beautiful beer.
That's one that beer right there is one of those things of like, how the fuck did we get so lucky to have this like in our province, that we're able to kind of taste that like this masterpiece of of a collaboration with such world renowned like lager producers. It's unreal how lucky we are that this is happening in our jurisdiction, where we're able to to purchase and consume this
For real. And it's like, it's Bim's hard work, and there's other breweries in Ontario who are making lagers that are delicious, and
absolutely.
that's the lagers. Those lagers and those pilsners are the ones that we need to make, because those lagers and those pilsners are distinctively different and distinctively better than trash macro beer.
Facts.
So if we as a craft beer world are going to focus our efforts and our time on lagers and pilsners,
Cheers, Jeffrey. Keep talking. Keep preaching.
Those are the beers that we need to aspire to make. We cannot aspire to make shit beer to appease the masses.
No.
We have to aspire to make beers like lager beer. We have to aspire to make beers like we have to aspire to make beers like Ziegler so that you're getting closer to those like regular ass beer drinkers, but you're still showing them something that's better and different, and they're jumping on your side because of that, not
Yeah.
because you've like come down to their level.
Yeah, and I
Well
think
said.
that I think you've really hit on it there because and you like you were talking about this before too. I think that whole business of just kind of trying to make
Bathroom.
a macro trying to make a macro clone is a fool's errand.
Yeah,
Because it's one of those things of and you brought up that like the prime point before, like even if you can make something that tastes the same as Bud Light or Coors Light, you're not going to be able to make it at the point that you can sell it at the same price point, and the people who are drinking those want it at that price point. They're going to be able to want they're going to want to be able to buy that 2-4 for however the fuck much a 2-4 of Bud Light costs. I have no fucking idea. But but the point is, you're never going to get a case of Town Lager at that price. So you shouldn't expect a customer to come in and and buy a Town beer that that's going to taste the same as Bud Light for that. But if you can change some minds by aspiring to make any of the beers that you just listed off, you can get you can get someone coming in to appreciate kind of how good a lager can be, and and that's that is something that will bring people through the door. That is something that will say okay, hey, craft lagers can really be something special.
100%. I like, and the thing is that it's always been very easy to distinguish a craft beer from a macro beer because they've just for one, which is the first step of anybody's tasting experience, is they look different. For a
Yeah.
long time, they were copper colored, and macro beer is not. Then they were hazy, and macro beer is not. Now we're crafting these lagers, and we're all spending. Every brewer I talk to right now is, how the fuck do I keep the foam, and how do I make them more clear? And it's like the absolute opposite of what we used to do. But it's like we're literally trying to make them the way that, say, Pilsner or Keller or Czech Fire has been making them forever. But it's like, okay, now they don't look different, but they have to taste different. It's just a harder thing to distinguish the difference. And like I said, it's very easy to distinguish the difference between a Bud Light and a Ziegler. But
Yeah.
do they look similar? Yes. Do they look the
Yes.
same? No. But do they look similar? Yes. They look a lot more similar than, say, a Bud Light and a Square Wheels. But
Yeah.
from a taste perspective, just as different as a Bud Light and a Square Wheels. But it's like, it's just this thing. And like I said, we people got into craft beer, I think, for the majority because it was better and different. It was like, I'm a little bit different and this is better. And that's what you would say. Why are you drinking that shit? It sucks. You got to drink this. It's better. And it was like, that's how we, for a period of time, shamed all of our friends to start drinking craft beer. You know what I mean? But now it's like, are you going to go to your buddies and be like, oh, you got to put that shit down. You got to drink this. It tastes the same, but it costs more. It's like, well, it's like, that's the fast track to closing up shop. You know what I mean? So
That's great.
I don't fear that. I think it'll happen to breweries. I don't think it'll happen to the breweries that are out there trying to make the best beer that they possibly can. But my fear is that the competitiveness and the quote unquote flat is the new growth mentality that a lot of breweries are having, that they're like, we need to do whatever we need to do to keep the doors open. And if that means going down to that beer, maybe we got to do it. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Strong will survive. And that goes back to the conversation about like being a beverage company, or like, maybe we're just like when all of these breweries inevitably turn over and switch hands and close and open and all that, we're the staple. And we've said, and I'm not saying this as town, I'm just saying there will be breweries that have said, nope, we're not doing seltzers, we're not doing ciders, we're not doing teas, we're not doing sparkling waters, we're just making beers, and we're just going to continue to make beers, and some of them will survive because they'll just be that steady, consistent brewery.
I really hope so.
Right? So
yeah, man. Yeah, I hope so. I feel like this should be one thing I've always noticed in life. It's not always the quality that gets ahead.
No.
I've noticed that in our competitors in our social media industry and on YouTube and in our music and all these different stuff. I'm like, okay, well, I strive for quality. I'm like, well, maybe quality isn't enough, but I'm always hoping that like the flavor of the month type shit, the stuff that maybe isn't focused on the best of the best, which I don't know, I just think you should. If you're going to do anything, you might as well try to do it the best of your ability. It has to come back around. It's like society has been, I don't know, whatever it is, like brainwashed into just going, I mean, it's not really, but you know, it's something along those lines where you sort of pointed in the direction of other things via marketing, via media, via whatever, peer pressure and stuff, and maybe lack of understanding. Craft beer, there's a lot of understanding needed to be able to drink this stuff. It's a culture. Like, even look at the way we'd all talk to each other. And if I'm trying to explain to someone, oh yeah, they got any Crispies? They got any haze? What's got, you know, they would like, well, what's that pastry you got there? Like, you know, and those are just the slang of the drinkers, not to mention the, you know, attenuation and all these different words that it's a subculture. It's a nerdy subculture that needs a level of understanding to be able to participate in it. You know, not necessarily, but if you want to get deeper into it, you're going to hear people talk. And we always try to be welcoming and like more chill here. But even like foundationally, I think to be able to listen to this podcast and understand it, there has to be some sort of base level knowledge to even know what we're talking about. So that's the only downside of it. But like, it's, you know, I think that's the beauty as well. Like, it might be a little tougher, but isn't it sick that it's like this thing that has this interest, and then we have, like you both were sort of saying, and after coming back from the States, one thing I felt was incredibly grateful for, not just in Ontario, but just Canada. I just feel like we have such an incredible beer scene. Like, the stuff that we can get here is so good. It's that's what I was telling everyone there. I'm like, yo, the shit that we're doing at home is like world class, absolutely no exaggeration. Like, it truly is in every style. Yeah. And it's like, we're so fucking lucky. So like, it's a great place for people to get into beer. And, you know, whilst it is somewhat expensive, you don't have to drink a case of it a week to whatever.
And when I talk about price, it's not like, you know, it's not like there's breweries out there that are just like actively ripping people off. It's like, this shit costs a lot of fucking money to make. That's it. Right?
Hops aren't cheap.
It's like a lifestyle, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to consume who you are and what you do and how you don't have to, like, I identify as a craft beer drinker. That doesn't have to be your identity. But it can be like I grew up a skateboarder. Travis grew up like a punk rocker. It's like, those are like these little subcultures where it's like, it's not just that what you're consuming. It's just not that you're consuming punk rock as a music. It's just not that you're skateboarding as a hobby. It's like way more than that. And that's, I mean, not to like get too like, oh, craft beer is like an entire lifestyle. It's not, but it's a lot more than just the liquid that's in your glass. It's talking to you guys. It's talking to other people. But it's also like realizing that if you're only going to sit and talk about beer to other beer nerds, you're never going to find any more people who are going to want to do that. So it's like, we have to have like an open and inclusive environment so that we can say, hey, like, get in here with us. Like, let us share why we actually care so much about this. You might think it's fucked, and it kind of is, but we actually all care about this so much that like, we feel as though, you know, we need to share it with people. And we you know, we like, you know, and that's what I used to do and still do, but it's like, you know, you guys have been there. I'm sure you have. You're like talking to your buddies who you're like, you can't drink that. It's shit. Get over here. Like, I'll buy you a better beer. And it's like, that's how much you actually cared about beer at that moment, was you're like, put down that shit. Here's my hard-earned money. I'm going to buy you a beer. Right? Like, we've all been in that situation. Yes. And it's like, we have to take all of the good things about that, and we have to like we can't stop telling people how great it is. We can stop doing or start trying to get rid of the shit that's not cool about craft beer, but like all of the good stuff can't go away because the bad stuff goes away. We have to continue to like yell from the mountaintops about all of the good stuff, or it just won't continue to be as good, if that makes any sense.
It does. It very much does.
It does.
Yeah,
But
I always find myself probably kind of like fucking up a little bit and like saying too much to people who are drinking macros. I can't help myself sometimes. I'll be like, the fuck you doing that for? And I might come across like a dick, and I don't mean to, but I'm like, it's that what you just said. It comes from a place of, oh man, like you're my friend and you deserve better than this.
And you're like, it's actually so sick. You're like, I'm gonna say it again and feel like a knob for saying it, but like I just actually believe it so much that I'm gonna go and say it again. Like,
yes,
you gotta try this.
I think it's like factually superior though. Like you could even just sort of look, yeah, cool. They produce it on this insane level. Then they mean macros at such a crazy level and such a crazy McDonald's like consistency that it's a marvel of the modern era. And we're acknowledging that, and you yourself said you'd spend your beer store money. I keep it in my wallet because I don't keep cash ever. It's the only time I have cash. So I like to have that on me. But you go and buy the Miller High Life, which I've been meaning to try that again because people keep telling me how good it is. So
and it's a corn lager, like whatever, but like it's got its time and it's got its place. And I don't spend my hard-earned money on it, but I'll take my free money
and spend it on it. Exactly, right? But it's like you just want. I think it's like objectively superior, I guess is what I'm saying. Like you go and you can't drink Sun and Hill or Godspeed lagers, for example, who are two breweries who have like hung their hat on we do lagers, or Tooth and Nail, for example. Those three are probably the best three examples in the province. And then you can put up against basically anything in the world. You could put that up against Von Trapp in Vermont, or I'm having a blank of anywhere else in the States, but I imagine there's a number of breweries down there that are just A1, or Slow Hand out in Vancouver who are phenomenal. And like there's so much, like you can't go and put that up against, you can't have that and then have a Bud Light and be like, it's as good, and it's just factually not.
It's objectively or not objectively. It's like factually different.
Yeah,
but that's the thing is like, and I don't know really what I'm trying to say is, but like we can't. The reason craft beer got big and the reason that it continues to be big is because we keep doing that. We keep telling people, you're fucking up by not getting into this, or you're doing it wrong. There's a better option, and but like. We can't stop doing that because people aren't seeking us out. Like you've never had a friend that's been like, hey, what's that beer? Like this Bud Light tastes like shit. Can I try yours? You fucking grab them by the shirt and you're like, put that down. So like, that's not the way we need to do it. But like, it's never really been that like, hey, like, what is this? I want to seek it out. It's been like, getting out there and bringing people in, and it's clear that if we stop doing that, then like our growth will plateau and start to decline.
Yeah, I think the other thing about this too, when we're thinking about trying to convert those those Bud Light drinkers onto craft, I think like we've talked about, there's a lot of problems in craft beer, and even if we're not talking about like kind of the deep-seated institutional problems and and kind of a lot of the barriers that come with a lot of even just to get anyone into the scene who aren't bearded white dudes.
Yeah,
there are even barriers just purely from an intimidation standpoint, and just the fact that the fact that we're so passionate, even that the fact that we can get so intense about it, I feel can sometimes turn people off, because it's and some people, it's the same with people who like their Tim's coffee as a
Don't get me
as
started.
opposed
Don't
as
fucking
opposed
get me
to
started.
no, but this is but it's a real thing though. It's
Yeah.
like people who stand by who stand by their Tims. And it's the same people who who stand by their Bud Light are the folks who want something reliable. Like they know that if they buy their case of Bud Light, it doesn't matter if you're buying it from the beer store in Thunder Bay, or if you're buying a 6-pack from an LCBO in Ottawa, or if you're getting it on tap in Windsor. It doesn't matter. You're going to be getting that same product every single time. They like the reliability of that, and they like the no muss no fuss about it, and they can be intimidated by kind of the intensity of craft beer, and I get it. And we need to as we're trying to bring these people in, it's it's a really really tough sell to try to be like this and we mean it, we really truly mean it, exactly like you were saying, Jeff. This is better. I swear to you, this is better. I want you to try this because I want you to enjoy this. I really, really want this for you. I truly want this for you. There's nothing selfish about this. I want this for you. You will enjoy this more.
We need to be more chill about it. We need to stop grabbing them by the shirts. We need to just. But it's like a perfect balance that we need to find collectively as an entire group of people. And it's like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen, but we do collectively need to take a chill and be like, okay, maybe we don't grab people by their shirt and drag them into the scene, but we do still have to tell them. We still have to be vocal because.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I'm not saying that we need to. I'm not saying that we need to tone down the goal, because we still need, because we still do need to want to convert those people. Totally. It's just we need to find the way that is not going to intimidate them out of their comfort zone, because ultimately that's what they have there, is a real comfort zone of reliability. If we can approach that in a way that does not intimidate them and does not make it feel like they need to make that big a leap, there is a way in which we can sell that.
I mean, perhaps it's. How about instead of supporting multi-billion-dollar multinational corporations, that we support the hardworking Canadian small businesses? Tens of thousands of small businesses were put out of business over COVID, and the small businesses are the core of communities. That's really what small businesses are, and particularly being that we're talking about liquids like third wave cafes, which I'm extraordinarily deeply passionate about, and craft beer. And that's the main thing, is that I don't think they, I've been there in the past too. When I came to Canada, I drank Tim's all the time, but it was because it was new, and it was, I didn't drink coffee really in Australia. I came here and I drank the French vanilla thing, whatever, which is kind of some sort of powder. It's not even coffee.
It's just one of those things that's deeply ingrained in the culture. I'm not surprised at all that you had that for the first time you came
because
over.
It was Canadian and it was fun.
Yeah.
And I drank Molson Canadian because it said the word Canadian, and I love this country so much that I dreamed about coming back here. And now that when I came here, I didn't learn about third wave coffee until about 2014, 2015 in Montreal. And I lived in Melbourne. Melbourne, Australia is the legitimate beginning of third wave cafe in the world. And third wave coffee, sorry. And I didn't even discover it. I drank hot chocolate before I left, for fuck's sake. So but I feel like I'm trying to just almost display hey man, once I discovered, don't you, how long do we live? Don't you want the best of what you can get? And a latte at Tim Hortons is whatever, a coffee there is a few bucks, but you spend a couple bucks more and you get an infinitely better product while supporting a local business. And the same thing applies to craft beer. You could spend $2.50 or $3 or whatever on a Bud, but then you can go spend $4.50, $5 on a town beer, and Fidelity, this phenomenal Pilsner we're drinking right now, and the drinking experience is not even comparable. It's that much better. And I know that I'm supporting a small team of, I think you said 14, 15 people. And I know that I'm supporting a business that I want to see continue, because you're providing a community hub. And, there's so many other benefits than just the product. And the product itself should be really the only benefit to convince people to do it. But There's
And
so many reasons.
The experience, it really is it's full overall experience. And if someone doesn't feel as though their experience or their life has been, I know it sounds aggressive, but unless their life has become better for to have taken this step to try this thing, and that could be the liquid, or it could be the sense of community, or it could be the sense of the welcoming. It could be a lot of different things that go with the experience of, say, coming to Town Brewery. The liquid's just one part, but like no one really latches on and comes back unless they feel as though they've gained something from it. And that's like our biggest thing is not bang for your buck, but just satisfaction. People leave feeling fulfilled. If they leave feeling fulfilled, they will come back.
And what
Like,
causes a fulfillment, do you think?
Everything. The liquid, the experience with the servers, the art on the cans, the vibe in the tap room, the music that's playing, the other people that are in there. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can interact and you can connect with people. And our audience is so diverse and our staff is so diverse that I think we do a good job of connecting with an array of different people for an array of different reasons. And that's, I think, like I was going to say, like, breweries are working harder and harder and harder for kind of the same results. And there are going to be breweries that don't make it. There are going to be breweries who continue to make it. And I think that you kind of need the full package right now. You need good liquid. You need a good story. You need to be able to connect to your customers. And you need a sense of community because, like, I don't know. I just think that it's so competitive out there, and you're competing for people's time, which is, we were living, and then we went into COVID, and we have more time than we knew what to fucking do with it. And now we're going back to what it was like before COVID, but it feels like it's twice as hard as it was before COVID because we're not used to it. And it's like all of these different factors, and you're competing for people's time, you're competing for people's money. And if they don't feel a sense of fulfillment, if they don't feel a sense of a real movement in a kind of like an emotional reaction or connection to what it is you're trying to do, then I don't think you really stand a chance in keeping them. So I just think we really just have to focus on the whole package. And I probably have said that about 100 times during this conversation, but it's just like, it's true. I think we have a very bright future, but I think we really need to all collectively as a industry, just like really focus on making great product, making people feel as though they're welcome, and making it making a great product that's good enough to bring in the average customer.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I also think it's one of those things where it's like we've had good, the good times for a hot minute. Like the last recession was what, 2008? So I lost my job. I worked at a bank in Australia, for fuck's sake, and the American shit that happened there lost me my job. I got paid a chunk of money, and I had a great because that's the summer. I lost my job in December. I had a fucking sick summer. I was chilling with my boy at the beach. We were like, but I couldn't get a job for shit. It took me 4 months to get a job, but I didn't get a job till like March or April, and I lost my job like mid-December. So like that like, now we're operating. Beer had probably been mostly used to a good time, an easy time, when things were flowing, people were interested, boom, boom, boom. Then we had this, weird, unprecedented situation. And then now, like you said, we're coming into this new world where everything is normal, but it's twice as hard. And that's why I think it's like we're not used to this difficulty. We're not used to, like, it's normal, but it's not normal. And it's and breweries have to find their way. And unfortunately, we've already lost one, big one and well, not big as far as size, but big as far as contribution in Barncat in Ontario at the end of August, which is terribly sad. And I really hope that there's no, that isn't a recurring thing. And unfortunately, the reality is we are likely to lose more. And it's one of those things we just have to figure out. It's inevitable. You're right. We have to. When I say we, the industry, the individual breweries, and everything, just has to figure out how to how to get by, how to make it through. And I feel like it's not even really about thriving, and that's kind of what you're saying, Jeff, about the new normal is flat, like growth is flat. It's not about thriving; it's about getting by to get to the next good time.
And the good thing, in after like all of this, and again, not trying to come across negative, I just like thoroughly enjoy talking to people who like legitimately care about this industry and the scene as much as I do. But like I think we've done like 6 or 7 collabs in the last like 6 or 7 months. And the like very, very positive part of everything that's going on is there are so many good people working and owning and operating breweries.
Facts.
And it's like, and everyone is like, everyone that we've collabed with, everyone that we've talked to is just like the same thing. Just like, you know, they're just as passionate. I don't think that, like I said before, it's not worth it if you're not passionate. So the passionate people are the ones who are still doing it and who are still driving it and who are still setting the example as far as, community involvement, product, all that kind of stuff. And just like, we've collabed with Fairweather, we've collabed with Badlands, we've collabed with Rouge River, with Muddy York, with Elora, with GLB, it's like I'm a broken record when I'm telling my wife or I'm telling my friends or I'm telling the other staff about the collab day. I'm just like, they're just so great. They're just such great fucking people. And I'm like, especially like Fairweather. Fairweather, I think they probably produce more beer than we do. I don't really know, but their vibe, I felt like I was at town when I was there. I just felt like everyone
fucking love Fairweather.
Man, everyone who was working there was just like so great. They were just kind, and they all had the time of day to talk to us, and they made myself and Caitlin feel so welcome. And it was just like a really, you leave those collab days being like, you know what? It might not all be sunshine and rainbows, but we have a bright future due to the fucking people that are like grinding in this business and who are like really in it and are dedicated and are invested and who like don't just care about making a buck or how many IPAs they sold last week, but they really do care about like the people who buy their beer and the amount of people who come in and they know them by name and they know their order. And it's like, it reminds me again of like why we started this whole thing. Like during COVID, it was like, we were busy, it was fine, you know, but like Friday at 4 p.m, I'm turning the lights off and walking out the door and the whole brewery is pitch black. And I'm like, this isn't why we started this place. We started this place so that there could be 50 people drinking beer here as I'm walking out. And I'm like pissed that I got to go home. And those times are kind of coming back. And yeah, doing these collabs, like that was a big focus for us, is like, hey man, if we're all going to make this work as an industry, then we got to get out and we got to meet people. We got to talk to people. We got to collab with people. We got to share ideas. We got to share, our failures and our successes. And it's been just an unbelievably great year in that regard.
I love that. Did the Fairweather collab, which is a fantastic segue, come about from the day that we went there and we met him?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know him either that day. We met him that day together.
Yeah, we met Rom and he gave us like the tour. And then, it was a couple months later. I was like, man, we got to do that collab. So I shot him an email because he gave me his email that day and we connected. And Rom's just like, he's a dude.
Such a G. Nate and I had him on the pod. Dude. Me and Nate went because me and you went, and then Nate came, and then because I knew him after you and I went, he came out, said hi to me and Nate, and then we told him about the pod. Then he got on the pod, and like he was a phenomenal guest. Like such huge fans of Fairweather, and I was very happy to see that you guys did this beer right here that we're about to crack.
And I ran those, so I got their version.
I love it. Where did the name? I'm gonna go get that. Nate, I imagine that's why you were asking me to go to Fairweather, so I could grab that.
Yeah, that is exactly why. I get so fucking intense for West Coast IPAs these days, and Fairweather, like no word of a lie, has made my favorite West Coast IPA in Ontario, of the past year is California King, no question.
So this beer is actually essentially a mashup of a beer we did called Super Dope and their California King. So we spent some time on the phone just talking about what we do for recipes and all that, and incorporated some of the stuff that we were doing that they weren't, incorporated some of the stuff that they were doing that we weren't, and we really just kind of made the same beer at each spot. And La Push is
So
actually
cool.
is La Push is a beach, and I said it wrong in our video. I said it was in Oregon, but it's actually in Washington. And Rom said
Same
that
shit.
he used to, yeah, exactly. It's in the state.
Whatever.
Rom used to surf there with his buddies, or at least go there with his buddies, and he said that beach just reminds him of drinking West Coast IPAs with his bros. And I was
That's sick.
he's like, man, he said he's been waiting to use the name for West Coast, and he said that. I was like, we have to do it. The crazy thing is that Rom's wife does all the art for Fairweather. I don't know if you guys knew that.
He did tell us on the pod.
We
Yes.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that came. But she is like, man, she drew this, and I was like, dude, that is so sick. I wish I was as talented at anything in the world as she is.
Yeah. The thing, the thing with with Fairweather's artwork, and we talked about this on the pod, of course, is that like it's all like it feels like a wallpaper, and I want to have all of their labels in like every room of my house.
Yeah, totally. They do a great job, and the beer is actually so. I've got theirs. You guys have ours, and they taste very similar. They have their differences, but they do taste pretty similar, and I think in a good way.
Oh, I'm
Oh
excited.
man, it smells like weed. I love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
gentlemen, fucking get it in ya, as the kids say.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Like West Coast IPAs are something that me and this gentleman Nathaniel are extraordinarily passionate about. So to know that like two of our favorite breweries in the province work together on this is so sick. This is great, bro. Do you know what the hops are
That's
off the
fucking
dome?
bomb.
Yeah, this one is we did Mosaic, Cashmere, and Simcoe, and then they swapped. So the one you guys are drinking is Mosaic, Cashmere, Simcoe, and they swapped out the Cashmere, I believe, for something else. I forget, but it was like, okay, so we do this in the kettle, and they're like, okay, we do this in the kettle, and we kind of mashed that up, and then we talked about dry hop, and we mashed that up, and then we used Cashmere and Simcoe and Super Dope. They had been we essentially just like kind of mashed them together and said, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And we made the same beer except for like one hop on the dry hop. But yeah, I'm super happy with it. It's like it's easy drinking. Like most of the West Coast IPAs that we've been making, and we've made probably 4 or 5 in the last year. They have been like super easy drinking. They do have their bitterness. They have generally a bigger dry hop than I think the old West Coast IPAs had. But I think like we could maybe do one where we're like really go overboard on the bitterness and see if we can get something that's a little more like 2006, 2000. But yeah, I love this beer. I think it's super, super nice. It's like dry.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
This is phenomenal. Did you come and you actually brewed it there?
Yeah.
Oh, so you didn't holler at me, huh? Okay.
You're in and out.
I see what it is, Jeffrey. It's okay.
It's rude. It's rude.
We rolled out one afternoon.
I'm playing. But I'm mad at you. I'm playing, but I'm mad at you. But I'm playing.
Still actually pretty mad.
I'm playing, but I'm actually fucking furious.
He's playing, but you're not friends anymore.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
Next time, I'm not even gonna hug you.
I'm dead to you.
Don't even say that as a joke, Jeffrey. No, this is fucking fantastic, bro. Like, and like, I think you're so right. It was cool to me and you were just hanging out. So like me and Jeff, we went to brunch at St. James, and then we went to Fairweather for a beer. And we just happened to. I think I posted. The social media guy was like, "Oh, hey," and he's like, "Hey, aren't you Jeff?" He recognized you as well because he knew me from the post. And then got around. We got to meet him, and it was just cool to see that because that day led to this collab, but led to Nate and I having him on the podcast. And then when Nate came, then we got to meet him before that. So it was like a whole bunch of things came from just popping in there and having a beer on a fall afternoon.
Yeah.
You know. And it's dope, and it's very cool. I'm happy to be in a city that has such phenomenal brewery with such great people, and I love, seeing you guys did this, and the fact that like when I think of town, I think of Crispies and Hayes, but
Yeah.
to see that you guys come through on a phenomenal West Coast with even Fairweather does it. Barrington, dude, he's getting into the West Veteran. The bottles here. He's like busting out the Westies. My guy, you want it's a Westie 12. Oh shit. Okay, big boy. He wants to get fucking lit. He's like, stop this like 5% stuff, buddy. You need the 10. I'm like, all right. Geez, he's one. But to do you guys, just to come together on the West Coast and do it like this is super cool, man, and very cool. Have you done as town? Because I don't recall off the top of my head that you guys have done a ton of West Coast IPAs.
We recently, like in the last year, we've done 4 or 5.
Fuck yeah.
We actually have so we're experimenting with this like seasonal thing at the LCBO. So we have Microdose in this summer. So that goes from like May 4 until Labor Day. Mm-hmm. And then the beer that we mashed up with Cali King, which is called Super Dope, is going into the LCBO this fall. So it'll be in from like Labor Day until it'll be essentially like September, October, November.
Oh yeah. So there's 2 different collabs. So there's this one, which was the West Coast that you did either side, and then
so this one, the collab is essentially a mashup between our Super Dope and their Cali King. And then we did both at we brewed one at town and one at Fairweather, but then that beer from our side, Super Dope, that was like the mashup beer for this one, is gonna go into the LCBO in the fall. And then
Super Dope itself, gotcha.
Yeah, and then we had another one, Unknown Legend was another Westie that we did, and then cool, Better Days, which was really nice as well. I think we made that one twice, maybe 3 times.
Sounds
but familiar. The West Coast IPAs are killing it, man. Like people are loving them. Like they're not selling quite as fast as the New England's, but like they're very, very close, I would say.
Yeah. I'd love to hear that. I'm seeing this. I guess I haven't had any of these. That's disgusting. I apologize. I just Nate
rude,
and I.
Really.
It truly is, Nathaniel. I'm a rude man.
I mean, I haven't had any of them either, unfortunately. So.
Well, we'll make sure that we do. We'll make sure we get them. We did a whole episode about West Coast IPAs because we just felt like they weren't being represented as heavily as far as in maybe content and stuff. You see these pretty New Englands all the time, and that's fantastic, and we all love them, and it's life. But West Coast is something that the 2 of us are specifically passionate about alongside lagers, and to see more of them from 2 breweries who do them so fucking well, man. Like this is fantastic. I feel like it's the same thing. Like it's gonna take breweries to reintroduce. I feel like brewers made lagers and pilsners because that's what they wanted to drink, and that kind of got through the zeitgeist of, they're just always there and they're so damn good because the brewers wanted them to be damn good. And I think it's the same with West Coast. It's like bringing things back because there's a whole generation of of drinkers who have never had a West Coast IPA before, and they did it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's the thing. Like if you're a new craft beer drinker in the last 4 years, you might have never even seen a West Coast IPA.
Exactly.
So on the board and you'd be like, what the fuck is a West Coast IPA? Like, oh my God, come on. But I also think that the West Coast IPAs that we are making now are more approachable than the West Coast IPAs that we finished with in the West Coast IPA kind of like ages. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
From like a West Coast IPA, or then it was an IPA or an American IPA, and then it became the West Coast IPA, and then it was like 80 IBUs, 100 IBUs, 120 IBUs, like the race to the most IBUs. And it's like I was saying, like this is a borderline like 40, 50 IBUs. it's nowhere near what we were getting before, which is like, scorch your taste buds off your tongue kind of like bitterness. So I think it is a more approachable version of the West Coast IPA. But I was saying, like, I wouldn't mind tossing one in that's like 80 or 90 just to see what it's like.
I'd be
But
I'd be right at your doorstep for that.
yeah, totally, right? Like, remind you of like the like Fracture, like Amsterdam Fracture was one of the first like West Coast double IPAs that I had that was just like I just felt like I was breathing hops afterwards, right? But I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh
these
yeah.
these types of West Coast IPAs, I think, are a more approachable version. I think that the New England IPA has had impact on our West Coast IPAs that we're making now.
Yeah.
We're definitely dry hopping them the same that we're dry hopping our New England IPAs, and I know that wasn't happening pre New England IPA.
Not at all. No.
But it's nice. It's a nice influence, I think, and it makes for a very it's a very different beer than a New England, but a very unique and kind of like it's a unique. I don't know. It's just like a sub West Coast. I think the one, and not this beer specifically. I just mean like in general. And I've had like the ones from Blood Brothers and the ones from Bellwoods and the ones from kind of all over. And it's like, yeah, they're all kind of that same thing. Actually, one brewery that's making them like I remember them tasting like pre New England is Sankyam. And I know that you're a Sankyam fan. Their West Coast IPAs are like gnarly in a good way. Like this brings me back to the days of like pine tar. Not all of them.
Yes.
Like, and this isn't a negative. I'm saying like I love
it. Perfect.
But it was
it's bro. I know exactly what you're talking about. I go insane for their West Coast IPAs, and they're local for me. They're a 25-minute drive away. When they release when they release a new West Coast or re-release an old West Coast, I'm there on release day. My absolute favorite beer. I would go so far as to say it's my single favorite beer that they brew is Sequoia, one of their double West Coast IPAs, and it exactly like you're saying, the pine tar. It's the super sticky, sappy, resinous thing there.
Talk that shit.
It's just insane.
Yeah.
It's my favorite beer. It's my favorite beer that they make. And the hop combo that they used to make that is absolutely wild. It's an unconventional combo for West Coast, but it works so fucking well.
Yeah, it's this new era of West Coast. Like it's not how they used to be, Jeff. Like you're talking about the palate wrecking thing. It's like now the West Coast have been, I think, like you kind of alluded to, were influenced by the approach to New England's. So now West Coast are malty, piney and resinous, but balanced, not as intense and juicy and tropical, which they weren't really before. It was just straight these amber malt bombs, but now they look like this. And this is more the norm.
And these ones aren't sweet.
No, not at all.
Malt. We use a little bit of darker, like kiln malt, Munich, Vienna, just to like add a little bit of color and a little bit of caramel bready sweetness. But it's like no crystal malt, no bullshit. It's just it's honestly like our brewers and our staff are drinking them probably more than the hazies, and I think it's because it's just like it's almost like a clearer picture of what the hops really taste like. Because there's like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Nothing to hide it.
Different, and don't get me wrong. Like my fridge is full of West Coast and hazies and lagers. Like I like them all, but yeah, it's just it's nice. I like it. It's a welcome change.
Yeah, man, and it was just very cool because like Fairweather doing Cali King, which they've done a couple times, and always made sure I grabbed that, and then to see them come back with a different one because I don't think they have done either many or any other West Coast IPAs, and to see that they've come out with that. You guys have done like a handful now, but it just makes drinkers like Nate and I very happy to see that that's what's happening. Like two phenomenal breweries with amazing people coming together and doing this type of shit. Excuse me, jeez. When you could have done some sort of haze thing, which would have been amazing too. But I think like this is, I was about to say more important, just because it's so different, and it's like diversifying
It gets me more
the palate.
excited. It gets me more excited.
Definitely.
And it's funny because it's what, like, getting together and talking to breweries and brewers and brewery owners, it's what they want to make, you know?
They
It's
want
like
they want to make this stuff. Okay.
when you get together with collabs, it's like, let's make something that the people want. Obviously, you got to give the people what they want. It's true. But at the same time, it's like, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Like, we just released a beer yesterday with Great Lakes that was an XPA. And so it's kind of like in between a pale ale and an IPA. It's got the malt content of more of like a West Coast, hops kind of more like a New England, but it's like a really, really great dry mid alcohol hop expression. And it's like that one was really cool because what we did is like Lackey and Troy and a couple of the other guys and girls from GLB showed up to the brewery and they brought all the hops for the brew, but they didn't tell us what was in it. They didn't tell us any hops. They like mixed all the hops up in different bags and just labeled like Whirlpool and dry hop. And then we did the same thing. We took a bunch of bags of hops, put tape over the labels, and we just put Whirlpool and dry hop, and then we took the hops there. So we still to this day don't even know what they're going to tell us next week what the hops actually are. But we released the beer this Thursday, not knowing what the hops in our own beer are. But it's like it was just kind of like a cool way to make it interesting. But talking to Lackey's like, yeah, like I like New England's and stuff, but I like it, a little bit. I love the hop flavor, love the hop aroma, but a little bit crispier, a little bit easier drinking, a little bit lighter on the gut. Like, you can't have these big sweet beers all the time anymore. We're getting old, right? So we got to.
I mean, that's facts. Another thing that made me really happy is that's XPA as an Aussie style.
No, that's the thing.
Funnily enough, so I knew that you had done the first XPA in Ontario that I was aware of. And I was speaking to Jacob earlier this year from Sankiem, and we did a collab. We mean to do a collab, and he was like, "What do you want to do? Do you want to do something like?" And I was like, "Well, I always like lean into anything Australian." So we did an XPA for their anniversary in May. Pardon?
I never had that. How was it?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I have some for you. So I should. I got some left. It's
older than 2 weeks.
It's okay because it's the West Coast. That's a fair point. It's it wasn't a New England. It was called Straya.
Oh yeah, and I saw that.
Yeah. So I got some for you. Don't worry. Because I said to the guy, they did a 6% version because I had the sort of quintessential one in Australia is by this brand called Bolter from Queensland. They got bought out, but they were owned by the surfer dude. And I remember drinking them down there, and I was like, okay, I see what's going on with these XPA shit. So I wanted to do something different. So we decided, we kept it kind of lighter. They did a really great job because Sankiem does we decided on the West Coast angle because for Link Up, here, fucking Great Lakes did the they did an
XPA, didn't they?
They did a New England XPA.
Yeah.
So I love that they did that, and they didn't tell us what they were doing because when we do Link Up, as you know, because you were in the first ever series, they didn't. We don't interfere with the beer, so most of the time the breweries don't even tell us what they're doing. So I didn't know that they were doing that, and we'd already decided to do that for Sankiem because I was like, well, look, no one in Canada has done it except for town that I'm aware of, so this will be the first in Quebec. And then as soon as we did that, then Great Lakes went and did that. Then I saw you guys did one either side, which was cool because it's the same two breweries in Ontario that are doing it, and then we did it out there, and I just did it because I wanted an Australian style. So I think an XPA is a fantastic beer, and it's really cool to see something different. And we use Aussie hops in that intentionally as well, but doesn't have to be. You can make a New England version, you can do a West Coast version. There's so many different sort of variants you can do. So I thought it was super sick that you guys even dabbled in a style like that, which is quite unorthodox, particularly. Go.
Yeah, just cool because I follow a lot of Australian breweries. I have like a deep-rooted love for Australia, even though I've never been there. I feel like I should have been born there.
I respect that. Who's your favorite breweries?
I mean, I've never really drank their beer. I mean, like from the outside, I mean, I loved Balter because I know Mick Fanning and the surfer who owned it, and I know they got bought out, but the beer was cool. They do a really great job on their marketing and their branding. Stone and Wood, I think, are like kind of OGs with the Pacific Ale. So we even did a Pacific Ale
Like that. Have you had Stonerwood Pacifico?
Never had it in my life.
Yeah, it's
Based the whole idea off of just like what I read on the internet.
Okay.
So we did a Pacific Golden Ale. We did an XPA, and the XPA was again just based off like what I read people's comments about how Balter XPA tastes. And like, oh, well, we should try and do that.
That's cool,
but it's
man.
like interesting too to you can get bogged down or just like making the same shit all the time, and then like you can also fall into the trap of just like trying to reinvent the wheel completely and be like, well, what if we put this herb or that fruit or this and that? And it's like, well, there's all these styles that are popular throughout the world that are popular for different reasons. Why not try and do that? It's like a tried and tested style, just not in our country or just not in this region. Right. So a couple of those were cool. And actually it was funny because when we did like the XPA, we did a tasting in Toronto, and some guy from Australia, it was at Toronto Brewing, came up from Australia. He's like, this reminds me of home. This is fantastic.
Like,
and I wasn't there, but the staff member was like, oh yeah, I had this Australian guy come up to me and tell me it tasted like home. And I was like, well, I'm glad, because I literally have no idea what the beer tastes like. Trying to copy, but I was like, that's good. But little things like that too, and those are the ways that you can get more people interested in beer and that, right? Like you've got that's from all over the world living in Canada. So you've got an Australian who's moved here and they don't give a shit about craft beer, but then they see XPA in some menu at some bar and they're like, oh, that kind of reminds me of home. What's that? And then they start asking questions, and one thing leads to another.
That's the point, and that's really that's a great example of how it can go, how it can sort of tap into different people. People are traveling again, obviously, and that's what if they pull up and see that on a menu, like you said, there could be some dude who's like a casual beer drinker who just drinks like basically Stonerwood and Balter. They're kind of more they're the bigger ones, right? The regional larger one. Balter's from Queensland, Stonerwood is from New South Wales, but they're like the bigger ones, whereas like my favorite brewery is Banks. They're like the homies. They are the town sort of brewery of Melbourne, and they're doing the haze, pastries, fucking lagers, blah blah blah. I just got a shipment of their stuff recently. Well, not a shipment. A friend came up and brought it to me, and I love it. I love them so much. They're just I brought him last time I went. I brought him a bunch of beers from Vermont and New York, and I gave him a cream ale from Other Half, and then he made the first cream ale. What's it called? The oat cream IPA. Oat cream IPA is what it was. Sorry.
I was going to say that didn't sound quite right.
No, cream ale. Like, come on. It was the Other Half OH ... that one. And he made the first, because of that beer that I brought him, he made the first oat cream IPA in Australia, and then now it picked up as a style because of that. And I was super stoked to be able to bring that to that dude, because I met him pretty early on, and he's always been a G. And like my friend went and saw him, and he like gave him a bunch of beer to bring up to me, and I was fucking stoked because I want to try his newer stuff and see where the Australian scene is at. And I'm super proud. Like, it's great. They do everything fantastic. Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. But yeah, all of that's how shows beer is international, and it does speak to something, and that's kind of like a great example, like you're saying, like the expat. I didn't really know about I didn't know about XPAs. I don't even know if it existed, to be fair, when I moved here 13 years ago. But someone who's coming up now and just coming up to Toronto area and then just being like, oh, I see this XPA from this town brewery. Oh shit, let me try that. That's local. And then they get nostalgic, and then they, it just sort of maybe piques people's curiosity, and I think that's really what it's about. You got to pique someone's curiosity to get them to make the plunge, whether it's at the LCBO, go to a brewery, at a bar for a licensee, whatever it might be, to then give it a crack. And I think beer is in a better position than other things. If you're going to buy a bottle of gin, it's 30, 40, 50 bucks. You're going to buy a bottle of wine, it's going to be 20, 30, 40 bucks. You're going to buy a can of beer, it's going to be $3, $4, $5, $6, maybe $10, and it's less of a gamble. So I think if we look at it in a glass half full type of situation, beer is a more affordable alternative to something that is much more expensive. That if you get something and it isn't to your taste, well, it's a few bucks less. It's not like you lost $40 by this bottle of gin. You're like, this is shit. You know,
Yeah.
so
I
it's a
think
bright future ahead.
we're competing for people's money. I feel like we're competing, like we're not competing as much against each other. I feel like we need to band together. We need to stick together. We need to like move forward together as an industry so that we can then gain people's trust and we can then gain people's investment, or you know, that people have a finite amount of money that they can do things with. And it's not that we have to start competing brewery to brewery for people's, you know, experience. We need to actually band together and say, hey, we're still this community that's very welcoming and that, you know, we want you to be a part of because we can show you something that's better. And I think I strongly feel like we all need to get on the same page in that regard. And not that we're not, but we need to continue to be on the same page, and we need to continue to like push forward together so that we can gain people's trust and gain people's just gain more and more followers. We need to replace the people who are moving away. So yeah, that's like essentially like my feeling. And I, again, after doing all these collabs this year, I feel like we're in a phenomenal spot with some of the best people in the world who are doing those things. And so as you know, aware we are about what challenges might lie ahead, I feel like we're in a good spot.
Could not agree more. I think you really are. The collabs have definitely been extremely impressive.
Yeah.
More just from like a community building. And I don't know, man. I have like an insane soft spot for you in town just because we did the pod with you guys when you were open a couple of months, and we normally don't do that because I don't think it's fair. I think a brewery needs to dial it in, but I feel like you and we clicked immediately. And just watching the growth and the changes, I'm just like, every time anything happens, it's fine. I'm like, fucking yes, Jeff's killing it, bro. Like, like it makes me genuinely happy. And obviously, I know that we all feel the same as we like. There's different soft spots for different breweries. And you worked at Mill Street, and I drank Mill Street. I remember at the very beginning when I was discovering beer, and they meant a lot to me in Wellington and Muskoka and different things around those times. And everyone has their little things, so it's cool to see just the growth of everything. And like, whilst sometimes the world survived the depression in the 20s or whatever, so I feel like whilst there's a bit of a shit time right now, like there's always brighter times around the corner, so we just have to sort of get through it. And one way, like you said, is via that community. So it's really cool just to see that there's breweries like town that are sort of very focused on that are looking to keep that community feeling alive. And you doing a beer with Fairweather, because I know I saw both of the beers go out on both of the email newsletters, and then both of you guys are promoting each other to those very very decent followings that both of you have. Decent's probably not even a good word, like substantial followings that of passionate people. And maybe there's some Fairweather drinkers that here in Hamilton or beyond that don't know about town. Like, oh, what's this about? Who are these guys? Whitby? Fuck yeah, I'm gonna head down to Whitby. All right. It's great.
We've got people who buy our beer who aren't beer nerds. They buy our beer because they live in Whitby and they like our product. They stumbled across us one day, and legitimately, as I'm writing the release post for Le Push, I'm like, if you haven't been to Fairweather and you are ever find yourself in Hamilton, like, you need to go. If you like us, you'll like them. So like, just fucking go.
Absolutely.
Like, that's
Guaranteed.
my now of grabbing someone's shirt and telling them that their Bud Light sucks and they need to drink this. It's like, all right, all I can say is if you haven't fucking gone, you're missing out and you need to go.
And that's what it is. It comes from a place of love.
Yeah, I support that 100%. And you know what, Jeff? Like, in your newsletter, that's a place to grab people by the shirt. 100%.
Totally, that's the thing, right? It's the that's
they signed up.
That's the way we can respectfully do it. Yeah, they've opted into the newsletter. So.
They've opted into the T-shirt grab.
Exactly. It's consensual at that point.
We're good.
That's the best way to put it. All right. Do we want to do the last beer? And
we should crack open the last one for a closer.
Yes, I just didn't want to make sure. I know we're getting a bit late in the evening, but yeah, mate, no worries. as the West Coast fiend here, I feel like you and I feel like you're like a touch more. Do you think it's fair to say that you are just one little step above me as far as the obsession with West Coast?
I would I would say so. Like I go mad for them at this point, and I was I
It's
was really.
exceptional.
Oh my God!
It's so
Like
good.
I was crushing hard on this one. Like even just on the nose alone, as I'm like, and even as I'm taking a sip, I'm still getting that whiff of smoke, like that whiff of weed smoke as I'm coming through here, and like, holy shit, that's good.
It's gorgeous. So happy with this.
That beer.
We're doing something extraordinarily interesting now. We're bringing it back. Bringing it back to
This one's a
Team
little bit-
Lactose.
We got Team Lactose in the house. We actually
Right here.
haven't had lactose beer in I would say 3 years. But
That's
our head-
offensive.
Yeah, that is offensive. Our head for Mike, who is an absolute legend. He
I didn't even show it.
Oh, here we go.
I cracked it. And I
Fucking
couldn't turn it
idiot.
sideways. I know, I'm a dickhead. I was supposed to turn it sideways.
Low tide.
Low tide. Let's go. La Push, which is a beach, to low tide. Look at that.
Mike has been on me for some time now about making a coconut milkshake IPA. And not that I didn't want to make it, but it's just like there was always something else that kind of snuck into that position in the production schedule. And then it got to the point like I felt like if we didn't make it, he was going to quit, and I just can't have that because he's such a legend. So I'm like, all right, we got to do this. So we did it, and he did a phenomenal job on this beer. We collaborated on most of the recipes, but this one was all him. It was we dabbled in the lactose. We didn't go super heavy in the lactose, so you're not going to get like a super silky mouthfeel, but you'll get a little bit of that extra sweetness, a little bit of that extra mouthfeel. And then we dosed it hard with toasted coconut. No coconut flavoring or any bullshit like that. Just straight up
Just
toasted coconut.
Real shit.
After we dry hopped it, we put it on the coconut for I think 3 days cold, and just let it really seep in. And not that I didn't think I would, not that I thought I would dislike this beer, but I didn't think I would love it. I love this beer. I think it's great. I think it turned out awesome. I think the coconut and the hop character are super well balanced, and the sweetness, the lactose, the dimension that the lactose brought is, I think, enough without being overbearing. So
I love that. I love hearing it. And it's Citra, Eldorado, and Talus hops. Is that correct?
Yeah, we didn't want to go Sabro. We actually kind of created. I personally hate Sabro. I know some people like it, some people don't.
Dare you?
I hate it. This is what I feel like Sabro should taste like.
Okay.
So,
Well, gentlemen, fucking get that in you.
Cheers. Team Lactose for life.
Mm-hmm. Gang. Ooh. Okay, Jeffrey Alexander. Is that your middle name? I feel like it's Alexander.
it's not, but I mean, I'll take it.
Can I guess? Will I guess it?
I don't think so.
I don't. Oh, okay. It's one of those. Okay, never mind. Justin, Gary,
No. Justin's no one's middle name of all time. I don't
David.
think that's ever a middle name.
Elijah.
You're always named after your middle name's usually your grandpa or some shit.
Yeah,
You know?
mine's my dad. Yeah.
No, his grandpa's name.
Mine's also my dad.
Oh, like gang. I love that. I was doing this family history thing recently, and it's like a whole thing. Even like I found out my dad's older sister, her middle name is my grandma's name, so it's like some sort of like thing in the family. I had no idea. It's intense. Fucking family trees, mate. Can I keep guessing, or is no point?
Bobby Joe.
I would never have guessed that, but don't lie.
Robert Joseph, but I like saying
Oh.
Bobby Joe.
Okay, so
Jeffrey
you've got
Robert
you've got the
Joseph.
Catholic. So you've got the Catholic second middle name thing like I've got.
Oh yeah, big time.
Robert
Yeah,
Joseph. What are you, Nathaniel?
That didn't work out so well.
So my middle names are Philip Joseph.
There you go.
Ooh, double Joseph.
Billy Joe. I love it.
Oh, All right.
What do you guys think of this beer?
This is fucking great. This coconut.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Wow, because it's all legit coconut. This is no.
Opinion on this one because while you're literally wearing a Team Lactose shirt.
Well, this is what we're here for, and I know I pitched you collabs, lactose collabs, like a few pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fuck, man, this is like. I know what you mean about the subtleness, and I think like the subtleness of the lactose. I know Nate and I probably used to joke in the past, maybe about the, lactose, but like, you know, that was more just to piss people off. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, we don't really give a fuck about it anymore.
No, at all.
We didn't care. We didn't care all that much about it literally back then, and we care even less about it now. But
yeah.
But this is genuinely great. I mean, coconut adds especially when you can create such awesome tropical flavors from hops. Coconut is such a nice complement to it, and I think while I don't hate Sabro, I think that genuine coconut flavor is better than than the coconut flavor that you get off of Sabro, and this complements it really nicely, I think.
For sure. Yeah, it's like it's not subtle by any means. It's all there, but it's like, you know, balanced is such a like an overused bullshit kind of word, but it actually kind of is in that way. It's just kind of like all pieces together. Pretty well.
I'm not sure if I'm getting still some of the West Coast in here. So talk us through some of the tasting notes, because like I don't know if you still write the tasting notes, right?
I do.
They're exceptional. Like your tasting notes have always been so
I
unique.
For a while.
True.
I didn't for a while, but I have for the last probably like 2 years.
Okay. I don't know. I just like the way that I feel like you're able to pull.
Read them back to me. You got them there in front of you?
It says, Low Tide was brewed with lactose for a fuller body and silky finish, then hopped with Citra, Eldorado, and Talus, and finally conditioned on mountains of toasted coconut. It all came together beautifully for a beer with so much going on. It's surprisingly balanced. It's still a fun little flavor punch to the kisser, but a balanced punch to that. Enjoy. I would have put Get It In You personally, but I respect that.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it's trademark now.
I think the balance is the key on this one. I don't think that every beer needs to be balanced, and that might sound super stupid, but this one there's a lot going on. But we did dry hop with Citra, Eldorado, Talus. Talus has, I don't know if you guys know a lot about Talus. Talus was in Mad Nice. It was one of the IPAs that we used to have regularly and in the LCBO. But Talus is a really beautiful hop. It's, I think, super unique. It has kind of like a cedary vibe to it, as well as some like cream caramel coconut-ish. It's like maybe like a Sabro light with a little bit more cedar. But
Cedar.
And then you can't go wrong with Citra, obviously.
Ever.
And Eldorado, I actually kind of hate Eldorado. We use it quite a bit, but I get like super, super, super candy vibes off of Eldorado a lot. One of our most popular double IPAs is one we haven't made in a while, but it's called Brain Space, and it's like an Eldorado bomb. And I actually kind of can't stand it. It's just Eldorado. Kind of every beer we've ever made with Eldorado, I wasn't a big fan of. But Mike was like,
I've had that.
Mike kind of thought it would play off of the coconut and maybe give it, because coconut's not sweet, it just is perceived to be sweet, and that's kind of the same thing with Eldorado. It's not sweet; it's just perceived to be sweet. It's like coconut milk; it's not actually sweet; it just tastes sweet. So it's like the balance of having the cedary kind of like earthy vibes from the Talus, a perceived kind of like candy sweetness from the Eldorado. And then you really can't go wrong with putting Citra in anything that involves an IPA. A little bit of that citrus kind of a punch to it. And then, with the lactose and the coconut. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all, just a guess. It's like, okay, well, how much of this do we put in? How much? And you can add more, but you can't take any more out. So it's like, that's why when I say I'm really happy with the balance, it's like, it's a calculated risk, but the calculated risk worked out well for this one.
I agree. Did you put any vanilla in it? Sorry.
No, we actually thought about that. It's funny that you say that because vanilla is one thing that you can add like right in the bright tank because it's literally just liquid. You just blast it in, mix it up, and you're good to go. And I said that to Mike. Do you think we should add a little bit of vanilla? Like, do you think it needs a little more sweetness? And he's like, fuck no, this is the best beer I've ever made. Like this is like, don't touch this. Well, okay, but like, it says milkshake. Do you think it needs a little bit more milkshake? He's like, no, absolutely not happening. I'm like, all right, if you're that conviction, like if your conviction is that much to say like it's not happening, I'm like, I'm fine with that. And
I respect the confidence.
100%. Like if he felt that passionately about it, I'm like, I'm not fucking with that.
Yeah.
And but then once it again, like the toughest part is like the beer's in the fermenter. It can be cold for 4 weeks. It goes to the bright tank. It tastes different. And then it can be in the bright tank for 3 days cold. Carbonated the same. It's going to be in the can. It goes to the can. It tastes different. So it's like, like there's always changes. And he probably envisioned the change better than I did. Because he's like, no, it doesn't need it. And then as soon as it went to the can, I'm like, this beer is perfect. So no, he did a great job, and he loves this. We joke because every video he does, like we do those like intro videos for our release videos.
They're brilliant.
Yep.
We're like, dude, for like a month, he's like, this is the best beer I've ever made. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, fuck that beer. This is the best. And then literally the next time he's like, all right, guys, I was lying before. This is the best beer we've ever had. So,
shouts to Mike.
He really, Mike's the best. And I told Keith I would shout it out to Keith tonight, so he'd be mad if I didn't.
Shout out Keith.
Mike loves this beer, and I think it's great. It's again, this is where it's like even me as like a beer guy who's getting old and washed up. I'm like coconut milkshake IPA. Would I grab that off the shelf? I don't know. But now that I got it in my glass, like, do I enjoy it? Like,
hell yeah, you do. I'm 4 years older than you, so you're not old and washed up because I'm not old and washed up. Okay, so you need to relax, Jeffrey.
Yeah, you look great.
Thank you. They got the grays, but we out here. So one thing I did.
He looks okay.
Who, yeah, Jeff or me? You know. I do what I can. The beer doesn't do me any favors in the lower belly region, but we out here. We're trying to do what we can. One thing I did want to give you ultimate props for, and I imagine you've noticed this. You talked about those videos that you make on Instagram, and you've been doing those for a few years now, I would say. They are exceptional. They're very personable. That starts with like an outtake, and it has someone from the team. It's you or it's Caitlin, who is her husband. Tim has been a friend of mine who's been trading beers for a while. He's a fucking legend. Shouts to Tim. You're a champion, Tim. Never met in person, but I fucking love Tim. He always hooks me. Sometimes he just go and just hook me up and just send me a bunch of like pumpkin beers. I'm like, you are a sweetheart. And when he knows
the way to your heart there.
Oh, and he won some like bourbon or scotch or something cool in like SAQ, and he's like, "Can I send it to you?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, you can send it to me." And he tried to pay me for the shipping. Like, fuck you, Tim. You always send me shit. Get out of my face with that, Tim. Let me pay you back for the gloriousness you gave me. So I fuck with Tim, and Caitlin's a sweetheart too. I lost completely what I was saying. What was I saying, Jeff? What was I saying? Oh yeah, the videos. So you have the team doing the videos. And I really feel like they've become a staple of the town social media. And I'm not going to say any names, but I've noticed some other breweries doing what you guys are doing.
I've seen that as well. There's been a few copycats for sure.
How do you feel, Jeffrey, being the triple OG of the video style? And then where did that come from? Where did that idea come from?
I love it. Anybody who does anything, I love it, man. I just want people to do good shit, and if it gets people to
You're a
buy more
good man.
stuff, then I'm fucking down. Because also, like, you know, we definitely didn't like create that.
It was
You
the
know,
first time I saw it as a social media dude in beer. I don't recall, and look, this is not like saying it didn't exist. I'm not trying to say you're wrong, but I'm saying I personally hadn't seen it anywhere else.
yeah.
At least consistently. Maybe someone might have done it one time, but I can't think of anyone
I think
trying
we
to give
made it
better.
I
when
didn't. Yeah.
we were working with like a third party content company who like their job was to do video, do photography and all that. Like we were doing it for a while. And then it got to a point where we're like, I mean, we worked with UC for a little bit doing some photography for us and that kind of
He did
stuff.
some
And we're
ads, I
like,
think, or something.
yeah. And we're like,
Yep.
we need to be better at this stuff. And
When
I'm
Square Wheels hit LCBO, that's when we did that shit. Yeah.
You gotta hook us up. But we're like, myself, Travis, Caitlin, Mike, like we don't have the capabilities to do what we felt like we needed to do. So we hired a company. I mean, I say company, it's like, you know, they are a company, but it's like friends of ours who had come to the brewery a bunch and made videos for the town of Whitby and had always kind of pitched us on like, oh, we could do some videos for you and stuff. And so we got talking to them, hired them. They're awesome. They've moved
Super
on.
high quality.
They have like they've moved on, and we actually have a new guy, Jason, who came in, who used to actually work for Fairweather, and
I know him. That was a guy we met.
that was the guy we met. Yeah, that day. So
Okay.
they've he's kind of like seamlessly taken that over. But the video thing has kind of become like a thing that we've done. I mean, it's not like a like in my opinion, in ways, it's not like a groundbreaking idea. It's really just like changing your release post into a video because Instagram tries to bury your pictures. So it's just like an inevitability that I think people are gonna do that. So I'm stoked that other people are doing it, and I think it's awesome. We get like a lot of really positive feedback on that stuff, and it doesn't take, you know, we don't plan it out. We literally most of the time it's like we're like, hey Kiara, do you want to do the video for this beer? And it's like they're set up ready to film somebody, but
And they're
we
like,
planned ahead and we're just like searching for someone like, you like sours, right? You want to do this? Like, you like loggers, right? You want to do this one? It's like we're just kind of like flying by the seat of our pants, which I think shows. It might look like we're like trying to look like we're flying by the seat of our pants, but most days we actually legitimately are. But
aren't we all? We all are
That's
at
great.
all times, Jeff. Don't even sweat it.
fun. And it's I'm stoked. And if we're doing something that other people see that there could be value in doing as well, then that's good at the end of the day.
And like I'll call one out, and I don't think they'd be and I don't think they would be mad for for saying this, but Dominion City they like do something pretty similar with with a lot of their posts, and I think they do them quite well. They're like kind of along the along a similar vein, and like I think to just like you say, it's a really good way of posting it and making it visible with the parameters that the Instagram algorithm allows.
And that's what I mean. I don't know that, like, you know, they're probably not being like, hey, town's doing this, so we should do it. They're probably going, hey, we've noticed because we look at our social media performance that no one's looking at pictures anymore and they're looking at videos. Like, we should probably turn our pictures into videos, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're probably not just like, they're probably not being like, town's doing it, we should do this. They're probably spending enough time on their business that they're noticing that it's like, oh, video is the way that you're capturing people's attention. And that's why they're doing it. And they're doing a good job of it. And
I think you're right. I think you're right.
And they've done stuff that they're actually one brewery that we look to all the time is like, they're like, they do a very good job. They do a very good job as a whole. Their beer, their community, they have a very clear vision and mission, and they stick to it. And they don't that's the kind of thing, like they do their water, and it's like it feels as a very Dominion City thing. It's not like it makes a lot of sense, you know.
It
It's not.
fits. It really fits.
You never question
No,
it. They do a great job, and Josh is like the nicest dude ever.
oh my
Um,
God.
they're,
Yeah. Like
they're
absolutely.
they're like the epitome of the community, like stakeholder. They're a community leader. Like they're awesome. I love going to that brewery. I love talking to those guys and girls, and they're great.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, like they're one of my hometown faves. Like
Yeah, because you're
100%. They're I'm right here in Ottawa, and like they're like exactly like you said, some of the nicest human beings in the scene.
you'll have
Like Josh is an absolute sweetheart. Like Scott's the man. Like it's just such a good team there.
oh yeah,
Everyone, absolutely everyone.
big time. That's what I get. Like we've never collabed with them, but I get the same vibe there as I get when I hang out at Fairweather.
They should absolutely collab with them. Like a Dominion town collab would fit 100%.
Yeah, that would be they're awesome. And Sunsplit was one of the first, well, not one of the first beers that like got me into craft beer, but it was one of the first like staple New England IPAs that I knew was just nails every time. It's like that.
It was a groundbreaking beer in Ontario.
Oh yeah, big time. And it's a great
Yeah,
brand, great name, great liquid, everything about it.
it sure is. You know what I'm thinking? Collab Square Split.
Square Split, Sun Wheels.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Either works just fine.
We'll pitch it to Josh.
Yeah, we'll have to have a talk with him.
See, what do you think about that? We're gonna do
I love it.
Sun Wheels, Sun Split, and Square Wheels collabo.
Is that just discovered now, or is
We're just
that was just spitballed right on the spot here.
I feel like we're gonna get Scotty on the phone. We're like, look, mate, this was happening. Josh gonna be like, fucking, let's do it. They're a bunch of good blokes. They would not be averse to that. I think
phrases.
The couch full of dads, to be like, I got a feeling that was one of the first beers that I'd seen of the recipe mashups.
Oh no, Den Full of Dads.
Den Full of Dads is what
I'm
what
so
you're
sorry.
thinking of. Yeah.
The Third Moon
Yeah.
collab.
Couch Full of
like,
Dads, Stars, and then Den of Thieves.
yes, from Third Moon.
Yeah.
Like, that was like one of the first one. I don't recall seeing one before then. I'm not saying that you invented it, but I love the whole concept of that.
I love the whole I love the whole concept of that too, and only one precursor to that I can think of is Dominion and Sawdust did a mashup of Sunsplit and Juicin'.
Yeah.
What was that called?
It was called Splittin' is what it was called.
Nice.
Which side, DC or? Sawdust?
That was on the Dominion side.
Smart. I love that. I just think it's such a cool approach to a collab, and I've seen it a lot since. But I personally noticed it the first time with the Den Full of Dads. And
Den Full of Dads was great. I fucking love that.
And even just the couch full of both the original beers are spectacular. It's just so sick.
What I've noticed lately is that like collabs went away for a bit, and now that we're doing them again, I feel like whether it's just that maybe I'm more involved now than I was in the past, but I feel like the collabs in general are more involved. It's like it's like, you know,
thoughtful. They're thoughtful.
We still do get together, just like kind of drink beers while like the brewers are brewing the beer and don't really do a lot. But I feel like there's like, hey, let's do a home and home. Like every beer we've done this year, I'm pretty sure every collab has been a home and home. It's like,
does that mean one each side?
Yeah, we're doing one here, we're doing one there.
I think that's the best way.
And it's like a lot of them, it's like, let's release the same week, or like us and GLB released yesterday. or like a week apart or 2 weeks apart. Like we released our La Push 2 weeks ago, and Fairweather released their La Push last week, and it's like it's it's a whole thing. It's let's get together, let's talk, let's find things that you do that we don't, that we should be doing, and vice versa, and let's cross market. And like
Yeah.
we're in Whitby, and literally like I was talking about this entire time, getting more people to drink your beer. Well, it's like we have legit customers in Whitby who only drink our beer outside of macro. So it's like, tell them about Fairweather. Like let's like get this thing going again. And it's just been, it's been super fun. It's like it's just like goes back to again, talking pre-COVID and like all the things that like we got into this industry for. These collabs are like a huge reminder of that, and it's again like a super positive like outlook on the industry, knowing that like all these fantastic people are out there crushing.
Yeah. I think that especially in 2020 and early 2021, that like a lot of virtual collabs really exploded during that time, as you know. And and I remember like a lot of pessimistic people would throw a lot of shade at that of like oh, a virtual collab, like like anyone can hop on a Zoom call and and share a recipe or whatnot. But I think that like for people who know who know the owners and the brewers, and like talking to folks like yourself, there's so much more going on to it than that. And kind of having conversations that we've had over the last month with people like Jen Tamsey of Beer Town, who have kind of coordinated some kind of three-way collabs even between them and and Sawdust and Third Moon. And we're talking with with Evan from the Wheeled Brew, and kind of how he's his involvement with some collabs and whatnot. There are certain collaborations that happen where it is really it is so much more than just hopping on a Zoom call or sharing a recipe. There are certain collabs that happen where people don't get involved with it unless they've got something to learn from it. And the knowledge sharing that can happen from this cannot be understated. It's such bullshit to me to kind of wave that away as just like hopping on a Zoom call as a marketing gimmick. Not to say that that doesn't happen in some sense. It probably has to happen to some degree, because there's always going to be bad actors in in any scene. But to people who take this shit seriously, there's always going to be knowledge sharing that happens. That happens in those things who are taking it seriously to kind of. It's one of those things that really drives the industry forward. For people like yourself who are collabing with Fairweather, there's got to be some knowledge sharing going on there, and both of you are going to come away from that producing a West Coast IPA that's going to be all the more bomb the next time you guys do your own one. Or if you're collabing with Badlands, the kind of knowledge of hop usage that might that one or both of you might come away with on that. There's only so much positive that can come away from that.
100%. It's just making, we have we can always make better beer.
Yeah.
And getting together and talking to people who are already making great beer will only allow us to make better beer. And it's just it's a huge part, I think, of one of the things that drew us all in. And it went away for a while, and now we're really on a mission, for at least us, to really bring it back into the fold and make it a thing that we do. And it's like I talked about, good work, good times. Both of those things are summed up by a collab. And it's like I said, we're not in trouble, but if we don't band together, we won't be in as good of a spot as we can be. And I think that all of us will benefit from it in more ways than one. It's going to be more enjoyable. We're going to have more success. We're going to be able to grow. We're going to be able to reach more people. We're going to be able to bring in more people from different walks of life if we all just get on the same page and are all working towards the same kind of goal, which is making the best beer possible for everyone that we possibly can.
Preach, bro. I
love
couldn't agree
that.
more. I really think that's the ethos of everything. It's always been the craft beer way. And like we were all sort of saying that maybe, you know, over COVID, it kind of didn't eventuate as much just from limitations, whether, you know, whether some people didn't want to do collabs over email or Zoom or whatever. But now it's coming back into that. It's that community that's really doing it, that it's really, you know, because who knows what it could eventuate. A collab is one thing, and that's great. And that's a marketing exercise, and it's like phenomenal beer exercise. And then there's a knowledge sharing, as Nate, you just really well put before. But there's, who knows what could happen. Maybe there's an event. Maybe there's a charitable aspect. Maybe there's a, whatever it could be, those, you know, there's so many things that could come out of working together in all of this.
Comes out of not working together.
Exactly. Why the fuck? And like, what other industry does this? Nothing.
No, none.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think
why
it's easy. I think it's easy to be.
on shirts.
No, go on, Jeff, please. I don't want to interrupt you.
I'm just saying that's the other reason that other industries don't have people grabbing shirts and pulling people in, saying like, "You got to fucking experience this. It's unreal." Like that's kind of why, and it's kind of how I got in, and it's kind of how I dragged my friends in, and you know, you don't want to have the actual physical nature of dragging people in, but like we said, like if no one tells people about it, then no one's gonna tell anyone about it. So
Yeah,
no one will hear about it. So anyways,
no, that's just it. I find it's really easy to be pessimistic about this shit, and a lot of and there are some people who are. I'm not even going to say a lot of people who are but just some loud minorities have a tendency to be pessimistic about stuff like this in the industry, and it doesn't serve anything. There's there's always going to be the people who half-ass it, and and there's always going to be bad actors in it. But I think there's so much positive to be taken from interactions like collaborations, whether they're virtual or whether they're in person, and the kind of whether it's knowledge sharing, whether it's relationship building, whether it's kind of sharing strategies on how to make the industry better, how to bring in more people, whether it's, and you know, that it brings in collabs like Link Up and everything that that goes along with that, things to build the industry. There's so much to be learned there, and so much that everyone in the scene can learn from this. I don't see the point in being pessimistic about it, because there's so much good that can come out of it.
Yeah, being pessimistic gets us nowhere. So
Nowhere at all. It's even thinking from BAOS, we've been around for 8 years as far as the pod, and we haven't wavered for a second. I wholeheartedly believe in craft beer. Yeah. We know the people behind craft beer, and that's what we believe in. We believe in the people. And people like you, Jeff, and all of your peers in the industry are the backbone of this shit. And you're putting your money up, your time, your energy. You're hiring people from the community. You are the community hub. I think you know, I know we're talking about alcohol, and alcohol is a fun little drug, blah blah blah. You know, but craft beer is so much more than that. And I think that's it's meaningful for the communities that they exist in, and they think they contribute positive, a net positive at the end of the day. And bro, like I said before, if you really look at it, there was a fucking depression 100 years ago, and it's cool. We got this. It's a rough time, and hopefully the rough time won't be that much longer. And then we're just gonna, keep going. And the way to keep going, and like you have really espoused, and if I'm really taking a lesson out of this episode, I feel like it's community as far as breweries working together. Because we all know, during the Link Up episodes, we really talk about community and, the drinkers and bringing different people in. I think that's really important, but we don't really talk so much about the community between the breweries. And you've been a shining example of what that can look like. And there's so many amazing collabs that you guys have done. And it's just like, I don't know, once again, looking from the outside in, it just looks like, man, like town is fucking everywhere. And they're working with these, like, once again, I saw you guys as a 2-month-old brand, and then now you're doing shit with Great Lakes and Badlands and Fairweather and blah, blah, like so many different breweries that you've worked with. It's spectacular to see, and it's inspiring, and I think other breweries should be inspired by that, and I hope that people keep doing that. If they're already doing it, keep doing it. If they haven't done it, then look at breweries like Town and others that are doing it and get involved and reach out and, you know, talk to people and make friends and spread the brand thing, because it's the only fucking industry where brands can promote each other equally without any hesitancy. Like it's for the betterment of town that another brewery is bigger, because it's a part of this whole community of thing that we need, you know, to drive those drinkers, because inherently the drinkers are going to want more than just one brewery. It's just what it is for the most part. Obviously there's those locals, but like you mentioned, but
for sure. Like we're literally, like and we're literally nothing without our peers. Like we're nothing without the other breweries. I say this at the brewery too. We're nothing without our staff. We're nothing without our customers. I mean, like, I know that sounds like a pretty obvious thing. We're nothing without our customers, but like we're literally nothing without our like diehard customers who legit will like do whatever. Like they just like they feel as though they're a part of the group. We're nothing without them. We're nothing without our staff. We're nothing without our peers. We're just like, we are not a standalone business. We'll never survive as a standalone business. We are a piece of a community where we are a piece of an industry. We're a piece of I dare to say movement, you know, but like, it's like, that's we fair. Are one piece of something. And I feel as though each of these pieces that create this thing need to just need to really pay attention and really need to focus. And we if we all stick together, we'll succeed and we'll continue to grow, and it'll be amazing. But we're just like, yeah, we're a part of a community. We can be a community hub in Whitby, but we are part of a larger community in the whole. And it's just like, it's legitimately just like a great community to be a part of.
Hell yeah.
Anyone says ever.
Let's go. I love that. This is beautiful, man. I feel like I'm just conscious of the time and everything, but this has been we hit almost 3.5 hours, which I'm not surprised at all that we would be yapping. I know you had a long day today.
Yeah, good.
Dude, this has been really, really cool. It's always as cool to reconnect. I feel like we should do this significantly more often, but like, it's just, you know, we're really proud of you, man. Like, I fuck with you so heavy. You're such a G. You're such a lovely human being, and I love the brand. I know Nate feels the same way, and it's just so cool to watch you guys go from strength to strength with all new thing. You know, this Pumphouse facility. When is that opening, by the way? Did we talk about that?
June 30th.
June 30th.
All right, so that's coming up. That's
6 days.
In like a week.
It's like, yeah, it's coming. It's gonna be sick though. Cole's Notes version. It's like a 6,000 square foot outdoor patio on literally 50 feet from Lake Ontario. The only thing that separates the patio from the lake is a beach. It right in Whitby, a kilometer from the brewery.
I love
Amazing.
it.
Just look it up. It's called the Pumphouse.
All summer long, town, cider.
Town, cider. We got seltzers. We got wine. We
Food?
got music. We got people. There's a food truck 50 feet away.
Money.
It's nails. Yeah. Just pay attention to our socials. It'll be all over our socials all summer.
It's so cool, bro. I'm just like, man, congrats on everything. Dude, you're a fucking...
Thank you.
There's a word I'm not allowed to say on this podcast that I want to say. You know what word that is. But you are a good one of those. And I'm just like, it's so cool, bro. I'm excited to come and visit this summer because now it's not that far. So, where can everybody find Town, the Pumphouse, online?
Town Brewery on Instagram and www.townbrewery.ca. I think all the shit on the Pumphouse. I think we got a Pumphouse page on the website now. Travis, if not, fucking get it on there.
Shouts to Travis, hardworking man.
He already screenshotted me the fucking the tab, but no, yeah, just the website, Instagram. Follow our Instagram. That's the easiest way to do it. I'm too old for TikTok, but I think we have one. But yeah, we're just follow us. Follow every brewery in Ontario. Go buy their fucking beer. Support their events. Support all their shit, and we will continue to thrive. Let's thrive again.
You are a selfless individual. Let's take a screenshot for the thumbnail, by the way. Do you want to hold up some cans, boys?
I got a few here.
Oh, yeah. Hold up as many as you can fit in your little mitts, my guy. I can only fit a couple in my stupid hand because I have to hold the keyboard. Oh, yeah.
I can't know which way to go here.
Don't cover that beautiful face, Jeffrey. That's all I would ask. I feel like the people need to see it. All right, ready? Oh, that is sexual. Stick around once we wrap up, dude. We'll finish up off air.
Hey, do I get to say where anyone can find me, or am I just dog shit now?
I was about to. Can you give me a second? Wow, Nathaniel, I like your assertiveness though. This is what we support here. This is a man who's out for what he wants, and I am
goddamn self.
I am for it. Nathaniel, where can everyone find your gorgeous ass online?
Oh, okay. Everywhere at Nathan Does Beer. I don't tweet much anymore because that place has just gone to shit now. But,
it kind of has, unfortunately.
But I'm still on there anyway. Like Instagram primarily at Nathan Does Beer and right here at BAOS Podcast.
The official co-host, Nathaniel. I appreciate you, guys. This has been a phenomenal episode. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, and hit that motherfucking notification bell, Nathaniel.
Ding.
So you know when the new episodes drop. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. Check out the long form audio. We drop every Wednesday. Mondays right now. I don't know, by the time this comes out, maybe the link up episodes would have finished. But Wednesdays, 7 a.m. for the audio for the folks who travel to, the commute to work. And then 8 p.m. in the evening for the video. Check us at 5 glorious stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, because that's what Jeffrey would want you to do. And that's what Nathaniel wants you to do. We're trying to spread the stories of the beautiful humans behind craft beer in Ontario, Quebec, and Canada, US, and beyond. Jeffrey, thank you so much for hanging out. This is amazing. Go support Town. Support craft beer. We'll see you guys at the Pumphouse this summer, and we'll see you in the next episode, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.